welcome to Eternal Rambles, where the Eternals ramble eternally. My name's Aaron.
I'm Codig.
And I'm Ryan.
And today we are going to be talking about Marvel Phase 3. So that's all the movies that came out in the third phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Those of you who tuned in to parts 1 and 2, which you should, we have very strong opinions. We have varying knowledge on games, the actual original comics, shows, and the like. We all have different favorites and different dislikes. One of the most polar that you probably picked up in the previous episode is Codig loves Captain America. Ryan very much loves Iron Man, and they butt heads on it a lot. I like both of them, but so it's actually really, really funny that we start off with that topic in mind, because the first movie is Captain America: Civil War,
and
which,
if you haven't seen our first
is one of my favorite movies in Phase 3, despite the it has no consequences. Oh man, they're so boring.
It was just more the fact it was like Zemo's plan in general was bananas, and the odds of it actually working out.
Zemo's bananas, but
Zemo's a lot better.
They redeem him a lot more in Winter Soldier.
Zemo's in Falcon and Winter Soldier. He's so much better. But just in that movie.
But we'll talk about the shows at a different point.
And the shock of it's like, this is not the Baron Zemo that any of us know.
Yeah, no,
He's 100% completely different character. He's not. Basically, the only thing that tied him to the character was the name. That was it.
Yeah. But all in all, Civil War is just. I think it's just kind of fun to watch. The heroes collab with each or collab against each other.
That was in the first Avengers movie.
It's kind of fun to watch all the heroes
punch the crap out of each other,
clash against each other.
That was in the first Avengers movie.
That was also in the first Avengers movie.
Well, this isn't an Avengers movie because it doesn't have Thor and the Hulk.
And that's the only reason.
That is the only reason it is not an Avengers movie.
Also, it's centered more around Cap and his decisions and choices.
Yeah, it's more centered around
That's actually the interesting thing about it, is something that Cosmonaut Variety Hour pointed out was, this is a Captain America movie, but the person with the most crap going on is Tony Stark. Like, he's got the most things happening to him in this movie. It's just, the conflict ties back to a decision Captain America makes.
Yeah, but the problem is it's Cap's decision that really drives the plot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Cap's decision to be a terrible friend.
It's Cap's decision to be a great friend. Fuck you.
No, he's being a great friend by being a bad friend.
Exactly, but still being a great friend.
While being
a
terrible
friend to Tony, he's being a great friend to Bucky. He's just trying to save his friend's life. That's all he's trying to do. Fuck you, Ryan.
By betraying his other friend.
Yeah, well, Tony's a bitch anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Captain America has no strength. In my opinion,
it's just like, Cap, honestly, he should have let the police bring in Bucky. And of course, it's like, I'm the only person who might be able to bring him in and not get hurt. But if he believes, which he does, that Bucky knew him, which means Bucky was remembering, then he shouldn't have hurt anyone. So, and even if they had failed to bring in Bucky, that still benefits Cap. So it's just a really stupid decision to get involved, which got him arrested, which got his shield taken away, and one thing leads to another, and it's all just bad.
This is his best friend that he thought dead for 70 plus years.
Hmm.
He thought died before he even went into the ice.
Which is why I hate that he actually visits Peggy in the movie. But we talked about that in Phase 1.
In all of my defense for Cap, for that movie, I do agree that whole Peggy scene, I kind of wish they would have just kept that out. It would have made even more impact whenever he goes back.
Yeah, because his only living reminder of the past would have been Bucky.
Exactly. And that's the reason why I have a lot of avid defense.
Wait, no, there's no scene where the scene where he interacts with Peggy is in Winter Soldier. But then her funeral is in Civil War. I apologize.
Yeah.
That was incorrect.
I don't think that should have been in there either, to be honest.
No, her funeral makes sense, because that's the tipping point. It's the one that pushes Steve to act.
Well, I think she should have already been dead.
Yes.
That's my personal
No,
opinion.
100% true. She should have already been dead, but since Winter Soldier...
She was already alive.
Since Winter Soldier already happened, we can't change that. With the consequence of this movie, the funeral needed to happen, because it needed to be that one thing where it's like, well, she died, and now I have to heed her philosophy.
Now, I totally agree. Like, me and Ryan and me and Aaron get into heated debates on who on siding, because like obviously I'm a Cap boy, so I side with Cap on not just ideological side, but it's because it's my boy right there. That's Captain America.
It just comes down to literally one line that Tony and Natasha both say. We sign on now. We sign now to placate everyone, to de-escalate everything, and then this can be changed, and amendments could be made, and we can go from here. And even then, they basically state, we're not actually really going to follow these to the letter. It's just, this is something that the world wants.
We're making the stupid politicians feel like they have power, so they'll calm the fuck down and get out of our way.
Because when you think about it, the Sokovia Accords, while when it came down to Infinity War, nobody, not even Tony, like whatever the aliens attacked and Tony went engaged, nobody sent him out. No one was like, all right, Tony, we're sending you in. Deal with the alien. He just fucking did it. So the Sokovia Accords mean nothing in that movie beyond the line where it's like, the world's on fire and you think everything's forgiven? I'm not asking for forgiveness, and I'm way past asking for permission. Your Earth just lost our best defender, so we're here to fight. You want to get in our way? We'll fight you too. Like, that's all it really carries over toward.
And Ant-Man and the Wasp, it carries over to that as well.
Yeah, but even then, it's not like it's not like this super specialized strike team. It's just the FBI, and they're just like.
No, I'm talking about the Accords themselves.
Oh, the Accords themselves, like.
Yeah, but notice that they're only really enforcing them
Ant-Man.
On Ant-Man. Pissy ass little Ant-Man.
And you see Hawkeye, like he was fine. He was chill.
He was still under house arrest.
He was basically, it's like, now no one can ask me for any more favors. The government has said, no, you have to stay with your family. And he said, yes, sir.
Now, when it comes to Civil War in and of itself, I think, like I said, I just have to side with, because, like...
Best character in that movie is definitely Black Panther.
His
whole arc, his motivations, and then the end of the movie... Best.
Well,
vengeance has consumed you.
So.
It is consuming them.
Well, yes, I do. I am a Black Panther fanboy. Here's the thing, though. In my opinion, he's better in this movie than he is in his own movie.
I agree, 100%. I think he's
really great. His entire arc in Civil War is the most compelling thing about it. And then you got Spider-Man. He's mostly just here for fan service. He's
just there to introduce himself.
Yeah, he's there to be like, hey, I'm in the movies now.
I'm in the Marvel universe as well.
Really happy to be here, Mr. Stark. Thanks for bringing me in.
I think the whole fight scene at the airport was definitely an interesting thing. It's even more interesting whenever you think about the fact that the only person that was actually there was Scarlett Johansson. The only person that was actually there, because everyone else was
CGI and like doing crap. And of course, like you say, like I don't think the fight in the airport was very spectacular, but that's not the fight that matters.
No, the fight that matters is the one between Cap and Tony.
In the facility.
And the one between Cap and Tony, I think, like, because like the promotional image of the shield versus
his repulsors, like that's iconic.
That was absolutely
gorgeous.
Amazing, and it was great because like, it's. I just love the fact it's like, this is a man in an not literally iron, but in a metal suit taking on, I mean, he's a super soldier, yeah, but like, taking on Cap, and he's got all these weapons and stuff, but he's like, it's like, we can't beat him in hand-to-hand combat.
Well, that's also the thing that's effective is whenever he's fighting Cap specifically, this is after, Tony's been banged up through other things, and he's not really trying to, like, if Tony really, really, really wanted to,
Cap be dead.
Cap and Bucky be dead. All he had to do, detonate my missiles on the roof to collapse them, moves the shield out of the way, because Tony has magnetic technology. He could have just magnetized Cap's shield to the ground, and then taken him out.
It works both ways.
But he's not trying to kill Cap.
It works both ways.
In the actual,
like, I agree 100%. If Tony wanted to, yes, he could have killed Cap. But
Cap also
the same, like I said, that goes both ways. Because if Cap wanted to, he could have easily killed Tony, especially with the way he had already disabled his suit.
That was after the fight, though.
No,
like whenever
he had already disabled certain parts of his suit, like the targeting systems and stuff like that.
Oh, Cap didn't do that.
Well, it was Bucky.
That point still stands. It was not Cap.
The
Cap
point still
on his
stands.
own.
It was Cap and
yeah,
Bucky.
okay, yeah. So he fried his targeting. Tony eyeballed that missile.
Yeah.
That was bullshit for one.
Nah.
Yes.
He's just badass.
But second thing, like I
He
said,
did it without any
Cap-
iron sights on a distance. Like, that was pretty impressive.
Cap could have killed Tony if he so desired. He didn't want to kill Tony. He was just trying to defend Bucky.
It's one thing that comes down to, though, is like the reason why I say if you wanted to, you could have killed him is because like it's like don't ship me, Rogers. Did you know? Yes. Then he backhanded Steve and then went for him. If he wanted to, because he's the one that threw that first punch. If Tony wanted to,
No, he's
that's
fucking
the end.
right. Because in that fucking scene, he was like, "Did you know? I didn't know it was him. Don't bullshit." He didn't fucking know it was him. He had to have assumptions. He did not fucking know it was him. Because all this bullshit. Oh, then the Winter Soldier. No. In the Winter Soldier, he saw things saying Hydra had eliminated Tony's parents. He did not fucking know who had eliminated his parents. He only knew that it was Hydra. There was no confirmation.
Very implied.
It might have been. It
Also-
can be applied all it fucking wants to be. That doesn't change the fact that he didn't know.
Also,
He was not certain it was Bucky.
He said yes.
counter
So
argument.
Steve saying yes means yes. Steve did know. You can make that assumption all you want, but it doesn't matter what you or I or anyone assumes, because in that moment, Cap said, "Yes, I knew, and I hid that from you, and I defended the man who murdered your parents."
Also, Codig.
Well, actually, he didn't defend the man that murdered his parents. He defended the man that was He didn't defend the man that murdered his parents, because Bucky is not the man that murdered his parents. The Winter Soldier was. And whenever he got over...
Actually, I'll put this one to Codig as well. Technically, even Winter Soldier wasn't when he murdered his parents. Winter Soldier was just the gun that did it. The guy who murdered his parents was the guy who gave the order. But
even then, it
point
wasn't
still
Bucky.
stands.
It was Winter Soldier. It was a completely different individual. It is two people in the same body, not literally in a sense like the Hulk and Banner. More of this man was brainwashed. He had no fucking control over his actions. And the fact that Tony couldn't see that and was just blinded by that rage.
This is an argument you and I have had before. When Star-Lord punches Thanos, which results in half the universe being murdered.
The difference is, Star-Lord had just fucking discovered that Gamora was dead. Tony has had 30 years.
Tony just discovered
20
that the
years.
Winter Soldier is the
However
one
many
that
fucking
killed
years.
his parents.
But he's known that they've been dead.
Yeah, he's known they've been
He's
dead.
had
He
plenty
didn't know
of
they were
time.
murdered.
He's had plenty of time to cope with the death.
He didn't know they were murdered, and then he watched a video of it happening.
He watched a video of his mother screaming as he snapped her
And the
snapped her
difference
neck.
is people give the Tony this whole thing of like, oh man, this man's a fucking tactical Well, anyone who is as supposedly smart and well kept as what he was trying to be in that movie would understand that this is not the right fucking play to murder this guy.
No,
It clearly was not the right play.
It doesn't matter about plays in this situation. No, it's the
Passion.
the funny thing is, the interesting thing is how it should have ended. Called it. If in that moment, instead of run and is if Bucky take the moment and said, "I'm sorry, Tony." Just that one thing, that tiny thing, makes everyone pause. "I'm sorry." Instead, he ran, which is Bucky's go-to move. Throughout the entire movie, the chick goes down, I run. Now, whether you think that's why I was like, it's like innocent men don't run, which is not
Absolute
true
bullshit.
at all. But the fact of if you run, that makes things worse because that's fight or flight. It engages, but if you stop for a moment, and say sorry, that would have probably changed things. Now. It's like, how shitty of an ending for the movie would have been if Bucky's like, "I'm so sorry, Tony. I didn't mean to do it." It's like, but that's what should have happened in that scenario.
You needed that fight between Cap.
No, you did. You absolutely
You
did.
absolutely did need that fight. That should not have that. As the story was supposed to go down, that was supposed to go sideways into a shit show.
And that's kind of the opposite situation where it's like where in Tony, because the man was right in front of him, it's like Bucky was right there. It's like, oh, Bucky murders your family. Right there. Steve had to take steps to get involved and throw his life away and throw everything away and be like, oh, Bucky, I'm here to stop you. He had a flight to fucking Germany. Or wherever Bucky was held off. He had hours on that trip to think about how this is a bad idea. Tony was in that moment right there, and then that's when all passion went out. And once that fire got started, there was no extinguishing it until bodies were on the ground. We've actually talked about Civil War on a lot of the things. Overall, the fight was interesting, and the main problem is the fight at the end of the movie has nothing to do with the Accords.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, had nothing to do with the Accords. It was about Tony finding about the truth and Cap trying to shield Bucky from the consequences of the past. Which, to be fair, were not Bucky's fault, but somebody had to be punished for it. And unfortunately, Bucky was the only man left standing.
Yeah.
Next movie up, though, we're going to go and skip ahead, because if you wanted to, you could do an entire podcast on Civil War.
Yeah, it's
next
a fascinating
is Doctor
movie.
Strange.
Or as I like to call it, Iron Man with magic.
You ever watched Iron Man? You ever seen Iron Man on weed? What's actually
Welcome,
very
Doctor
interesting.
Strange.
We actually watched this one. We went into theaters and saw this for Ryan, not on Ryan's birthday, but for Ryan's birthday when it came out.
Because I love magic.
I like Doctor Strange a lot.
And I love Doctor Strange.
I kind of
because he's dope as fuck.
Doctor Strange is one of those interesting characters. I really like him. He adds a lot to stories, but solo adventures with Doctor Strange have to walk
A
fine
line.
Because it's so easy. In my opinion, it's always the if writers are not careful with magic, it's so easy to disappear up its own ass.
Exactly. It's so easy. Just like, how did you solve it? Magic.
And I feel like Doctor Strange did a really good job.
Well, they did a really good job because they established like what that magic could do.
Yeah,
with the beginning.
They established
obviously later on he does a lot more bullshit.
Basically, all the magic.
The thing is, they established what because it's a Doctor Strange movie. They established what Doctor Strange is capable of doing, and they give him limitations to what he is capable of doing in that beginning bit.
No, the thing that makes it is everything, all the magic we see in the finale is established earlier in the movie at different points in the movie. So there's no, I pulled it out of my back pocket and ta-da! We see every single step.
You see the astral projection. You see the
messing with time.
Bolt,
the
teleportation.
The
thing.
Flight, the construction of weapons, or also all of that, the curse with Dormammu and the other realms, everything we see is given to the audience before the finale. Whereas, and so oftentimes, if with bad writing, is magic users pull a solution out of their butt, and I'm like, well, where did that come from?
And the greatest thing about it is that Doctor Strange does not defeat Dormammu. He forces him to concede.
That's the thing that I really like about it. Yeah, it's so nice to the fact it's like this legit beginner in the mystery. He's gifted, but he still has a lot to learn. He doesn't just like, I will defeat you through the power of friendship. It's like, no, He
forces Dormammu to concede by creating an element in situation where Dormammu can't win.
Yeah, that's the thing that I really liked about that movie. Is like, because Doctor Strange, while he can just beat bad guys, it's more interesting to watch him outthink them.
Outthart.
You can't defeat me. No, but I can lose. I can do it over.
You can definitely see
and over again.
You can definitely see who has more of a pillar or more of a horse in this race when it comes to the three of us. Because honestly, I like Doctor Strange, but clearly not as much as Ryan.
Yeah. I love Doctor Strange. I love Doctor Strange when he's done right, when he's done well, when he's this intelligent, clever genius of a mage.
Unlike the 90s Doctor Strange, where it was like, ha, magic.
Things are like with Captain America and Iron Man, it's okay to get across a decent story with an okay writer. Doctor Strange requires a lot, because it's so easy just to lose yourself in magic.
In the wacky magic, to see the intelligence and the tactical thought process.
No, it is kind of interesting, though. It's like, because it's Marvel, everyone's a quippy joke machine. In that movie, Benedict Cumberbatch definitely is playing more to the sarcastic asshole, rather than the weighted knowledge of a Sorcerer Supreme, which makes sense. He's just getting started, but he just spends the entire movie just all of that, which is a bit much. But
yeah, I agree. Like he gets a little bit better in the.
Oh, so he joined a cult. I didn't join a cult.
It's like Ragnarok. It's a lot better.
Like, I gotta go. Where? I'm late for a cult meeting. It's like
yeah.
Also,
I'm so sad. Like, I really liked Dr. Palmer. I can't remember the actress's name. She was really good. I want to see more of her. Because there is that in the comics, like, there is that one nurse or doctor who sticks with Strange no matter what, and then there's, like...
I was trying to do it without stopping the podcast.
There's always that nurse or doctor who sticks with Doctor Strange, even though he's a giant ass, and then when he gets that moment of clarity, he comes back to them, but, like, I don't think they ever stick around. I don't read Doctor Strange that often, but never do I see romantic interests with him, which, on one hand, is good, because romance written poorly is awful. But
I don't ever read Doctor Strange. I only watch him in media for, like...
I've only really read his origins. I don't really get
I haven't
too
even
much.
done that. I'm not gonna lie.
The problem with Doctor Strange and the reasons why romance doesn't work with Doctor Strange overly well is because of how his position works and his role in the universe. He doesn't really have a life.
He is the Sorcerer Supreme.
He's the Sorcerer Supreme. He is always dealing with something. Somewhere at
like
some
Dr.
point in
Fate,
time.
but, like, everything's on him.
Yeah.
There's a problem.
Yeah, I'm just really, really happy that they gave Mordo an actual reason for turning his back on the Sorcerer Supreme. I wasn't picked as the successor, therefore I'm going to burn the dimension to the ground. It's like, no, it's like, he felt betrayed. And they explained that the entire movie is Mordo's soul is rigid, forged by the fires of his youth. But he is strong. So he has an immovable sense of right and wrong. So the fact that the Sorcerer Supreme requires a sort of moral flexibility to do what needs to be done, the fact that he turns his back on everyone, and the fact that he can't accept Strange's victory, even though at the end, everyone's saved. He did it. He saved the day. But because he broke the rules, he can't stand by it. So I like they gave him an actual reason.
They gave him a more noble fall than just, the ancient one didn't pick me, so I'm going to whine, cry, and throw a bitch fit and join Dormammu.
Anyways... let's move on to the next movie on the list, and that would be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Interesting name, Volume 2.
Yeah, I think it was just another Guardians of the Galaxy.
I think it tied into the fact that it's like because of music, so volume.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, but the movie itself...
Here's the problem with the movie. What does it add to the plot? Like, what does it actually genuinely
It takes
add?
away Star-Lord's possible superpowers from the first movie. That's really all it does.
No, in my opinion, it further cements their bond. That way, whenever most of them die in Infinity War, it means more to the audience.
I get that.
I get that.
We needed another Guardians of the Galaxy movie to cement your love for these characters. The problem is, my biggest problem with the movie is, and keep in mind, I do love this movie. I don't want people to think that I don't, because I do.
Oh, yeah, no,
my biggest problem with this movie is it's the same as the first movie.
It's the same as the first movie.
I've heard people definitely talk about it's less of a sequel and more of a second half to the narrative.
Exactly, because they're just sitting there like at the beginning of the first movie they're like, we're family, and at the beginning of the second movie they're like, I hate all of you, and then they have to become a family again. It's like you're going through the exact same character arcs.
Yeah, you go to the exact same character
arcs.
The
only person that actually gets a character arc in that movie that's separate from the first one is Yondu.
I don't.
And he fucking
dies. I don't agree with that situation. It's at the end of the first movie they become friends, and at the end of the second movie they become family.
Which
and also another reason why another important thing is in all these movies, especially in space, with all these tragedies, it's knocking down another domino for Thanos. Ego is a person more than powerful enough to stop Thanos.
Oh, he's way more powerful.
So the Guardians killing him is another domino. It's like at the first Guardian movies, the Nova Corps being decimated means they are less able to repel Thanos' invasion.
I think it's funny if you really look at it from a certain angle that all the people that would be powerful enough to defeat Thanos were not defeated by the heroes directly.
Yeah.
Hela, she wasn't defeated by Thor. She was defeated by Surtur.
Of course she was defeated by Thor, because Thor told Loki to put the thing in the head, which
Ego wasn't...
So if you think about it...
I mean, technically speaking, if you look at it from that perspective, Ego technically was defeated by the Guardians, but even then, like, the only way that they could have done that would be to get to his core.
They gave him a lobotomy.
yeah, pretty much. The only way to do it was to get to his core. And Thanos wouldn't have been able to do that. You wouldn't even know where it was.
It was also important to me, in my opinion, that there had to be a more gradual change, like for Drax's character. Because if you look at Drax from the first Guardians movie to how he's in Infinity War, there needed to be that kind of buffer for him to chill out and be more open, fun.
Yeah,
because if he'd gone from his race is totally literal. Any metaphor's gonna go over his head. Nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too quick. I would catch it too. It's like, what is it that we just do what we do? What is it that they do again? Kick names, take ass. That's right. It's like, where's Gamora? I'll do you one better. Who is Gamora? I'll do you one better. Why is Gamora? There had to be some development. Not to mention Mantis. Because Mantis was utilized in their ability to fight Thanos in the first. So there were small things but necessary things in that one. Not to mention with Nebula, they had to go from I'm going to murder Gamora to sisters. That way in Endgame and Infinity War, that all mattered.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I do thoroughly enjoy the movie. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed the movie, especially like the little David Hasselhoff appearance. That was pretty nice.
That was great.
I think the reason why most people like the first one better than the second one is the first movie is much easier to watch. It's less heavy.
The first one, you don't even have to say. You could literally not watch a single one of the MCU movies and enjoy the first movie. So I think it's just a good standalone movie by itself.
Yeah.
You can't watch Guardians of the Galaxy 2 without having seen
Guardians 1. But that is the other thing, is like you can watch Guardians 2 having only seen Guardians 1.
Yeah, which is nice. The Guardians franchise,
which you can't do with any of the other sequels.
And you won't be able to do that with 3 either because Thor's in there.
Yeah.
Thor's going to be in there.
But then also it's like, at this point, who hasn't seen Infinity War and Endgame?
Yeah, at this point, yeah. Highest grossing movies of all time.
So we're going to move on ahead to Spider-Man Homecoming. And Spider-Man is my bar none favorite superhero. Not just Marvel, just everything superhero.
Aaron is Spidey boy.
The first movie I remember seeing in theaters was the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. It was the first Spider-Man movie. And I don't really like the Tobey Maguire trilogy.
What's that one called again?
The first one.
It's called
Spider-Man. It's called Spider-Man.
It's called Spider-Man.
I don't really care for the trilogy nowadays. I just find it just a little too campy, and I never saw Tobey Maguire as my Spider-Man.
I liked it.
Then the Amazing Spider-Man. I enjoyed the first movie. I can see people's gripes with it. Like, Spider-Man is definitely more written like Deadpool in those movies, especially in the second one.
Yeah.
But then you have Tom Holland Spider-Man, and he's at that perfect high school Peter who just got his powers. He's not fully comfortable with himself yet. And I understand, like, because Codig has this issue of, I wanted to see Spider-Man, not Spider-Man outfitted by Tony Stark with a brand logo and like, oh, yeah. But in this one, they kind of had to jumpstart him.
That's just my biggest problem with it, though. It's Spider Stark. It's Iron Spider without the iron.
But if you look in the comics, Peter and Tony do have that kind of relationship.
They do have that kind of relationship. The problem is before that, though, Peter made all of his own things. He didn't make a single thing that he wears in any of the movies in the MCU.
Not true. Remember, because the climax is Peter has to stop the Vulture with nothing but his homemade suit and his wits. He had to go against Tony's wishes. He had to do it. He had the option. He had to stay in school and get the girl, but he knew it wasn't right, and he tried to. He's like, I'm going to go after him. Ned, you contact Happy, and we'll do this. But nobody would listen to him, so we had to go in. Now, granted, I like that they offset that by one of the hallmarks. The two things that make Peter interesting is his inability to look away when something's going wrong, and his ability to fuck up everything wrong, and that makes he's the source of everything wrong. It's like, so at first he's like, I can't look away, I got to do something, and then he ends up almost up getting everybody killed in the ferry by interfering with the FBI bust that was going to happen. And then it comes back around to, it's almost like The Boy Who Cried Wolf. It's like, oh, he's there and he's being dangerous and he's stealing things, and then he doesn't realize. That's another thing I liked about it, is like, it's not that nobody was listening to Peter, it's that it was poor communication. They heard Peter, but they kind of brushed him off. It's like, okay, I got you. You go have fun and be your school and be Mr. Spider-Boy. Yeah. It's like, if they just like, I hear you. All right, we're going to call the FBI, and they're going to handle this. You did good.
Yeah. I will say this, if Stark had just said, okay, cool, got it, I'm handling it.
Although I do like that whenever he's trying, like, whenever Peter saves everybody on the Washington Monument, and then Tony calls back later, is like,
if you even cared, you would be here. He pops out of the suit.
And I love that it freaks Peter. He didn't expect it. Like, he walks back like, oh my god, I didn't actually expect you to be here. It's like, but after he saves her from the monument, Tony calls like, hey, I saw you on the news, and, you know, lessons with my old man, I want to, like, good job. But the fact that he's like, I gotta buy the first truck, I was like, oh my god, I'm so fired.
Yeah.
So it cuts to the core of Peter as a character. Is it the situation everyone wanted? Probably not, but ideally Peter should have been introduced way sooner. But because he couldn't be, in my opinion, this was the best way to jump off. Because everyone knows the origin of Spider-Man at this point. We had 2 franchises of him. Everyone knows.
Give me 1 second. You keep cutting me off.
Yes.
What I was saying was, I agree. It is a great movie. I love the movie. There's not a whole lot more they could have done with it, with how late he came into the franchise. Yeah. It doesn't change the fact that it's still disappointing to not be able to see, you know, Peter in all of his genius design his. Of course, he designed his web shooters. And then Tony made them better, which is something that actually happens in the comics a lot.
Yeah.
But I would like to see him design his own suit, and the suit is just an Iron Man suit shaped as a Spider-Man suit.
Well,
with all the technology and shit.
Well, now we have a chance to see that, because now Peter has Tony's company. Peter has.
Well, the problem
we're not talking about that.
The problem is that it's like one of the best things about Peter is his knowledge of guerrilla science, is like being able to accomplish these incredible feats without a budget.
Like a paper box of matches, it's a bubble gum.
Exactly. And the second thing that I just kind of missed, like, I get it, I get why they didn't add it, but I just really wanted to see Spider-Man flying through the city on his webs. You know,
have that scene that's always in Spider-Man movies where you see him swing.
Yeah, exactly. And I get why they didn't do that. It's still sad though, because like, especially whenever you have a Peter Parker as convincing as Tom Holland.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, and yeah, they're like, oh, I'm scared of heights, and I'm like, okay, yeah, you've explained it.
I've never really gone this high before.
Yeah, you've explained it. That doesn't make it any less sad.
Yeah.
Like, cause I enjoy those scenes. Like, those are some of my favorite scenes in Spider-Man movies. And then you could have explained where he actually puts his webs instead of, they attach to the sky.
Oh, that's why I like how he's like, he literally just gets on like an elevated subway and just kind of sits on it for a little bit for parts of it.
Yeah. And then they go to. We'll cover that when we get to the Far From Home. Yeah. But that disappoints me hardcore.
Yeah.
So next one's gonna be Thor Ragnarok, and this is we all kind of had different opinions on this movie. We're gonna let Ryan go first because he kind of talked the least so far.
I liked it. I think
we all liked it.
Yeah, we all liked it.
My biggest problem was it's a little too goofy. I didn't feel like the fall of Asgard was treated more seriously as it should have been. But then they were doing a different thing because audiences weren't jiving with Thor. I get it. They had to evolve the character. There were a couple of jokes I felt shouldn't have been in there.
Well, there's a difference between, changing the character, or what's the word? What did you say? Changing the character up and doing a fucking 360 on the character like they did, because like Thor, even in the comics, he's not a very funny guy. He's a very
there is a very specific comic comic series where he is funny.
Well, yeah, but
it's more like straight laced, like
it's a straight laced warrior sarcasm.
And I think it was good, and I think including Hulk in that was good. I still wish you could have gotten a regular Hulk movie, but that's neither here nor there.
I think this was the best option because honestly,
it was the best option. I'm glad.
In the Planet Hulk comic, Beta Ray Bill is there, so you just basically replace Beta Ray Bill with actual.
Which is
Thor.
why I'm glad that they did that, because I was super excited because anyone that knows me knows that the Planet Hulk storyline is like in my top 5 favorite comic book storylines in history.
Great.
I absolutely adore it. I love the movie. I love the comics. And I'm a huge Hulk fanboy, which is why I'm super disappointed that he doesn't get his own movie. But you know what? Just getting over there. But
it's really hard to do it. It's like Doctor Strange. It's really hard to do.
Well, plus they don't own the rights.
Solo Hulk.
They just don't own the rights. That's the reason why I haven't done it.
Yeah.
But
well, you can do a solo Hulk movie, but it would be hard for general audiences to really get into it.
We'll cover the Hulk.
It's way more psychological.
We'll cover Endgame Hulk in a minute. I got a 20-minute rant on that one.
Yeah, that's gonna be big.
But Thor Ragnarok, I think it was a really fun movie, really great. I don't think they had enough because Hela just didn't seem like a threat. I think it was just too many villains.
Yeah, that's the problem that I had with the movie.
It felt like Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man 3.
It was more the fact of it felt more like they had two ideas in mind, but
they didn't evolve either one of them.
No, it was more the fact of Asgard needed to be destroyed, but they wanted to do the fun of Planet Hulk, but they realized that storyline was not going to destroy Asgard. So they needed to have a villain that would destroy Asgard to then set up Infinity War. Now, it would have been great, in my opinion, if it wasn't Thor Ragnarok, but if it was Thor Planet Hulk, where the Avengers couldn't find Hulk, so they asked Thor, "Is like, hey, he's not anywhere on Earth. Maybe you can find him in space."
Look for him?
So he starts looking for him, and then he ends up getting caught on Sakaar and stuck on that whole thing, and he has to help Hulk
escape
through that. Yeah,
or
and then because Jeff Goldblum is a very different villain than any other ones we've had. Because it's not the fact that he's powerful in the way of he himself is strong, or like he's rich, therefore he's untouchable, or any other thing. He just drips
with charisma.
He's just very charismatic in a place. Basically, he was in a land of nothing, and through his own wit and charm, created a society that's really fucked up.
Nothing like the Emperor, but that was
that's a whole completely because with it's the prophecy and all this stuff. It's more the fact of it's just a giant landfill, and he happened to build a scrap empire and distract. It was less like the actual thing of Planet Hulk and more like Murder World.
Yeah.
Oh, not Murder World. War World from DC, where Mongol is like, I distract my people who need food and medicine and shelter by giving them these great games to watch. So as long as I give them entertainment, everything's fine. And whenever you got Hulk, it's like, this is it. This is a champion. He's big. He's strong. He's bombastic. He enjoys this. Everything's gonna be great. And then Thor shows up and is like, fuck.
Now keep in mind, I don't really like Hulk in that movie. I think it's funny. This is a Thor movie, and we're talking more about Hulk than Thor.
Well, because it ties more into the fact of you want to talk about characters who've done 360s. Hulk,
yeah.
Hulk and Banner, 100%. They go from being like in the first Avengers movie. I think it was done very well because it was more Banner's like, I just want to sit here, and it's like fidgeting, like if he touches anything, he's gonna explode, and also he's very quiet, and so it's a great juxtaposition to Hulk, who's very big and loud and
it was even better in Avengers 2, Age of Ultron, whenever he especially with the mind control scene. That was amazing.
Yeah, that was
great.
Then,
like Hulk versus the Hulkbuster was
jumping
definitely
character from Thor Ragnarok. It's like, for one, when did you learn to speak?
Baby arms
like this. Yeah.
It's like it was 2 years. So the fact that Hulk talks more. It's always interesting. Like if you see if anyone's seen the Avengers vs. Mightiest Heroes cartoon,
where Hulk, like a baby.
Where Hulk speaks in completely with proper grammar and no like, it's like he actually talks and he's he's intelligent. In this one, he speaks, but it's more broken English, kind of like baby. Yeah, he's baby man.
They literally make him a child.
Yeah.
Well, see, here's the
thing.
Like
at the end, it's like, can you please, for once, not smash? Big monster.
Hulk, for once in life, cannot smash something. Big monster.
Like,
it's like, are you crazy? Yes.
That fucking annoys me.
Quit it. It's like,
especially because
and he even did like the toddler thing when they were fighting. So it's like, and I'm pretty sure I know the point Ryan's about to say, but it comes down to Hulk is an alter ego to Banner. He's not an infant, and he's always had an intelligence to him. Even like in the first one, in the Hulk movie,
could see the intelligence.
Though he didn't speak full sentences, but he spoke. And he understood. And you extrapolate to that was 10 years ago-ish.
By the way, best design for Hulk.
Oh, 100%, but we've already talked about that in Phase 1.
Yeah, I know.
I think Ragnarok is the second best in my opinion, because he looked more complete, less balloon muscle, but I don't know. I think it's just like with Mark Ruffalo's face. Like, it doesn't mesh with the body well, which we'll talk more about in Endgame, where it's really noticeable.
Bad. Anyways,
and definitely know with Hela though, and the Scourge Executioner, I thought they took an interesting angle with it because
I thought he was great.
He was like, yeah, he's not at all.
I got this from this place called
from Texas. Texas. It's Dez and Troy. You put them together, they destroy.
I fucking love him. And plus,
he's completely
what's
different.
What's the name of the actor? Oh, what's the name of that actor?
No idea.
He's so fucking good. Like every movie that he's in, just amazing.
I like the fact that instead of it just being that he's this mindless dude who's just out for fighting in war,
who got kissed by the Enchantress and now is bound to her or whatever. Now he's actually more like, all I want is a chance to prove myself.
He wants to prove himself as a fighter.
I think one of my favorite parts in that movie, in general, is my favorite joke in that movie is when Doctor Strange and he's like, "Oh, you want magic?" and he just plops in a fucking portal.
All right, you second-rate soul. So don't think for a second. All right, bye-bye.
Plops in the portal. They continue to talk. He's like, "Can I get my brother back?" And he plops back down. And he's like, "I've been falling for 30 minutes." that got me laughing on the floor.
On one hand, I like how Anthony Hopkins, like Odin, like his death, I thought was handled pretty well because he's like, it's like, look at this place, it's really beautiful. Father, we're here for you, my sons. It's like, Loki, lift your magic. Haha. Took me a while to break free of your spell. Frey would have been proud. This whole thing is like, sit with me and have a time. He's just sitting there and having a conversation, and he's not like, he's here, but he's not. He's like in this like. He's dying, and he's trying to have a moment of peace, but to reassure his sons and warn them and apologize. It's like the moment was like, "I love you, my sons," and then you see that like Loki like looks at him, it's like, "I'm included in this." Like, what? It's like we don't really get to see like an actual confrontation, like not a confrontation, a
conversation.
No. Between Loki and Odin, there is no actual
dialogue after.
They don't really get. They don't really get to have a. The last time they have a real conversation was, "You stole my birthright. Your birthright was to die." Like that's the last time they actually share dialogue with one another.
Yeah,
which is
unfortunate.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
I really wish that. I really wish that they had come full circle, where Loki got to actually air his grievances to Odin and have Odin either apologize or burn that bridge. One of those.
One of those two.
Either have Loki have that redemption and that healing, because after Freya died, that was basically left to Odin to actually bring him back, and it was going to be interesting either to have him cement Loki as a villain or bring him back to the side of good. And then you have Hela, who he didn't do a bad job. It was just she didn't have the weight.
Hela was not given the time and respect that she deserves.
And she's nothing like her comic counterpart. She's more of a quiet
This
menace.
is the goddess of fucking hell.
This is the god
This is the god of death. This woman should be terrifying and fearsome and the star villain of her own show. Of her own movie. Not really show, but, you know.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, she encounters Thor twice. One at the beginning, and once
granted,
at the end.
They did give her a little bit of weight. They gave her the power to catch and then break Mjolnir, and then she obliterates the Asgardian army.
Yeah, so she's established
as dangerous, but we don't.
You don't see her as a threat to Thor because everything. It's like she breaks the hammer. They go to Sakaar, and
yeah, she never engages.
I know it was important that we flash back and forth between the fight between Thor and Hela and the fight on the bridge, but I wish their fight had been held more and it was given them more, because like all we see, like, because this is the first time we see Thor fight
an equal.
No, with a non-hammer. He's using a spear. He's using his father's spear. And we don't even see him like use it like the laser beam we see Odin use it. We don't see him utilize it to its full capability. I would have loved to have seen that. And
or seen something.
I think it would have been
more
I would have seen it be more interesting is if Thor fought her and was doing well because he had Gungnir in his hands. And then once he's disarmed, he starts losing, and it reinforces that notion in Thor's head that he needs a weapon to be good. And then he has a conversation like, "Are you Thor?
Are you Thor,
God of Hammers?" It's like, have the whole idea is where it's like, I'm not good enough. I'm not as strong as you are. No, you're stronger. And then then that conversation is also cut short. It's like, no, you're stronger than me. You're better than me. But he doesn't beat Hela, which kind of undercuts that. And it also just plays whenever when he's back there. It's like, oh, I'm going to stop Thanos. I'm going to beat him. He's the strongest being in the universe. He didn't even beat Hela. Yeah. So why does he have this idea that I'm going to win?
Yeah.
It's weird. If he had actually beaten Hela, but as a consequence of their battle, Surtur came out and destroyed Asgard. Because I understand, like, his character growth is like, Asgard is not a place, it is a people.
But, you know, we could go all day on that.
Anyway, moving along.
I don't know. I liked Thor as a character in that movie, but overall the plot I thought was a little weak.
Yep.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next movie in the list, and that would be Black Panther.
Oh, Black Panther. The character.
The movie was great 2/3 of a movie.
It was very much okay.
Yep, it was great.
It wanted to be the Lion King so bad.
It really did. It wanted so badly to be the next Lion King.
Killmonger.
Killmonger was freaking amazing.
He was amazing. His ideology was stupid, but
it shows people who are marginalized the danger of themselves being
being
radicalized. It's like, all people, life started here on this continent. Thus, all people are your people. It's like the whole thing. It's like, and Wakanda. The great thing about it is, I fully believe if Wakanda tried to, they could conquer the earth. It's like we have soldiers in every city on this planet. Killmonger's plan, I 100% believe, would have worked, which is what establishes him as a threat. I don't believe that Killmonger could actually take on T'Challa even without, because, I killed people in Afghanistan, Iraq. It's like all stuff like, you used fucking guns to do that. You're fighting this dude hand-to-hand combat with weapons.
With a pointy stick.
We saw T'Challa take on a guy twice his size.
With the same type of combat training.
Yeah, the Wakandans were better trained in every way than the military. I don't care what special forces that you were. You're not better than the fucking war gods of freaking... Because it's actually implied that the Dar Milash, whatever, the bald chicks with the spears, I apologize, I don't know what they're called. It's said,
the guards, the royal guards.
It's said at least in the comics, they are trained by the Black Panther and are trained by fighting the Black Panther, which means him and all of his strength. They are trained to fight him, and he trains them. So they are the best trained warriors ever because they are literally trained to fight super soldiers.
I actually disagree with Aaron on the idea that while I don't think Wakanda would actually be able to succeed, because it's just too small of a nation. They're too... they don't have enough numbers. While they have that advanced technology and they have the advanced weaponry and training, they are vastly outnumbered by everyone else. And everyone else is just advanced enough to put up a fight. However, they burn the freaking world down.
Here's where I'm going to disagree with you.
Which is the true danger.
Here's where I'm going to disagree with you on that, Ryan. It's been shown time and time again that the world does not have the technology necessary. Well,
like Tony gets close, but even then that's privatized.
This is vibranium, though.
These are ships made of vibranium.
Like, our weapons wouldn't do anything. Even if we decided to nuke Wakanda, it wouldn't do anything.
Like Cap's shield allowed him to pull off the impossible, and that was done. Yeah, he was a super soldier.
And that was an alloy. That wasn't even full vibranium.
Yeah.
And
also, it's also things that we also your opinion is possible. Was like, they don't need to fight armies. They have their war dogs, which are already planted. All they have to do is smuggle them weapons, and it's been proven time and time again. The United States military has done this. A small team can topple governments.
That's literally
all they have to do is topple the governments around the same time, and then Killmonger declare himself king. It's like, I took all of your leaders. they're all gone, and my people
prove that he can
in place of powers, and anyone who says otherwise can deal with me.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing is it doesn't really matter who would win because at the end of the day, the world will burn.
Exactly.
And also,
that's the real big danger here. It's not who's going to win. It's the world's going to burn if these two, if Wakanda fights the world.
I honestly agree with Aaron on his earlier statement. Black Panther or T'Challa just isn't as T'Challa in this movie.
He already went through his character arc. He did it in Civil War, so making him like reaffirm who he is. He already knows who he is. He had the whole beautiful clarity at the end of the movie. So now he's dealing with Killmonger, a monster of his people's creation. We like to think that we're better than the rest of the world. We're more advanced than the rest of the world.
He shouldn't even have a character on that movie. He should be a flat character.
The movie should be focusing on him uncovering the skeletons, the mistakes of his father.
In all honesty,
and
the only character in that movie that should have an arc.
Because there's a line that his father says whenever he's talking to him and he's just playing, "You are a good man," and it is sometimes hard for a good man to be a good king. Have that be the dilemma, not for T'Challa to come into his own, but understand. Like, that's what Thor's whole thing is. The difference between doing I'd rather be a good man than a good king, but T'Challa can't make that choice.
He has to be the king.
Yeah.
And so dealing with Killmonger, a monster of their own making, this is my cousin. It's of royal blood, and he grew up this way because Wakanda sat by and did nothing.
And might I say, for one, T'Challa is stupid during that part of the movie. For one, and for two, that shouldn't have even happened to begin with. The challenge was already over. The challenge day was already over. Therefore, there should be no point where you can just be like, I challenge you. He shouldn't even be allowed to challenge him. And
well,
I get
whether or not he should
it.
be allowed is
I
T'Challa
get it.
the
He
challenge.
accepted the challenge. Let me finish.
Yeah.
I get it. He accepted the challenge. I get that. However, it should not be fucking valid for one.
No, the dick part is whenever it's like, I never yielded, and then clearly I am not dead. And then
they continue.
It's like the challenge isn't over yet, and then they ignore the challenge. That's the thing. Is like he got the throne via ritual combat, but T'Challa never yielded, and he's not dead. Therefore, everything should have stopped. And now it's also the thing is like the reason that pisses me off is because it's implied that T'Challa and the leader of the border tribe are like brothers.
Like that they're brothers. And it was
once it's like, take me with you and we will stop Claude. No, we need you here defending our borders. I will go. It's like, all right, then make me a promise. If you cannot bring him back, if you cannot bring him back, end him. And T'Challa failed to bring him back, but he failed once. It wasn't, all right, we have brought him back. Oh, we're executing him? No, we shan't execute him. It's like, he failed one time, and it wasn't even effective. It was like, oh, well, we failed, and we're not going to hunt him anymore. Sorry, your people. It's like, he turned on a goddamn dime. Especially when it's like, it was not only they were like brothers, but he was freaking in, like, him and Okoye were lovers.
They were husband and wife. Or however that
they have a really
works
established relationship. It's
Wakanda.
There's one line literally in the beginning of the movie. My king, my love. Well, there's that relationship established. Also, the love interest that T'Challa has doesn't need to be in the movie. Cut that entirely. It does nothing.
What love interest?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem. Is he has like 4 women in his life. He has his mom and his sister, Okoye, his general, and then his love interest. Cut her. She doesn't need to be in the story.
Like, what, Naomi?
I have no idea.
Yeah, me neither.
I can't remember her name. Because if you cut,
what is this love interest?
If you cut all of their dialogue scenes together, there's so much extra room to flesh out everything else that needs to be fleshed out in that movie.
Yeah.
So
there really didn't need to be a love interest in it.
However, there's one good thing I will say about Black Panther. It had a fucking amazing speech between T'Challa and the rest of the kings when he just dressed them the fuck down.
Oh, it's like, you were wrong. All of you were wrong to turn your backs on the rest of the world.
See, that was a great speech.
And also Killmonger's monologue at the end where he's like, spare him in the ocean with my brothers and sisters who jumped from the ships because they knew that death was better than bondage. That is the rawest shit anyone says in any of these movies.
Yeah.
It was great. I love it. I like 2/3 of the movie. I do not like the final battle.
Also the twists, like all those twists on top of each other.
They did need to be there.
Like honestly, the fact that we find out that the king murdered his brother should have been shown to us at the beginning, because there are still twists to be had if you do that. It's like that informs us that there is because we think the plot twist is we think the plot twist is that maybe he survived or something like that, and then it makes us question the king and his decisions, and if we think we know the truth, we want T'Challa to know it as well. But that just never doesn't work out, and also the fact that how he escapes also is bullshit. It's like he got shot with one grenade and that's the end of it. And yeah, you could say it's like, oh, he saw the ring and that made him go after him, dumbass. Like, you didn't even try.
There is problems with that movie. Overall, good movie. I agree.
I like that the pride it built out and the fact of you can enjoy a basically all black movie, even if it's like a superhero movie. It would have been better if the movie was better. But I like the fact that it made people feel proud for what they've done, and that's good for representation.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good movie. It had a lot of problems, but it was an okay movie, and it was fun, and I enjoyed it.
It's just weird having all these really great black actors in this movie who basically didn't do anything in the movie.
That was also kind of my only issues. You had a bunch of really good actors.
I think the best relationship in the movie is actually between T'Challa and his sister.
Yeah.
That's the best relationship in the movie. So that's why I want you to cut the love interest. Like, because you have his relationship with his mom and his sister, and then with Okoye. Those are the relationships that need to matter, because those are the ones that fucking carry over. They're the ones that are in freaking in Infinity War and Endgame.
Speaking of Infinity War,
that is next. That's the movie next, and oh my gosh,
honestly,
so much. We saw this in theaters. We had to. We saw that we didn't. It wasn't IMAX, but we went to like a super fancy theater for this because we knew.
This was gonna be great.
This was gonna be gold. This was 10 years of build-up. We had to see this.
Exactly. It was gonna be utterly, fantastically, brilliantly painful, and I loved it. It was a fantastic Thanos movie.
Was it painful?
The interesting thing that I thought was before it actually came out, it was Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2, and then they changed it to just Infinity War, and that made everyone question, what does that mean? Did they cut it down so there's only one? Is there going to be another Avengers movie, but it's not called Infinity War? What does that mean? That it's not Infinity War Part 1 anymore? There were so many questions that we had. It's like, we knew Thanos was going to be the villain. It was very obvious, and obviously the plot was collect the stones. But how he was going to do it, we never, I think most people honestly thought Thanos was going to get maybe 2 or 3 stones, maybe 4, and the movie was going to cut. And then the next movie was going to be finishing it. Nobody expected him to get all 6 stones and actually snap his fingers. That is one of the biggest shocks.
Which I think is one of the greatest parts about the movie, because it's not an Avengers movie. It's a Thanos movie. Thanos is the hero of that movie.
No, he's not the hero.
He is. He is the protagonist of that movie.
No, he is not. I wholeheartedly disagree
with that. He is the one the movie is focused upon. Here. It's about him. Getting the stones and snapping his fingers.
Wrong.
And they're the obstacle that he overcomes.
That would basically be that Joker would be the protagonist of The Dark Knight. Because I'm pretty sure overall Joker has more screen time than Bruce does.
Bad, Ryan. Bad.
I understand where you're coming from, but he's not the protagonist.
I disagree.
He is definitely the focus.
No, he definitely is the focus, because he has more screen time than any other character.
Like, in the opening, I think the opening just really fucking drove it home. Like, this was going to be brutal. The opening scene with him clashing against the Asgardians. You just see all these dead Asgardians. You don't see him clash with
the Asgardians. No, they're just dead.
Anyways, the Asgardians just lying on the floor dead. Mm-hmm. Goes up to Loki, give me the cube, and then
a lot of questions. So many questions. Where's Valkyrie? It's like, it's all these questions with all these people, and they're not answered. They don't actually explain what happens, which is weird. But
actually, if you pay attention, you can see where you have an idea of what's going on with the Valkyrie, because the Master Ship is escaping.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. No, if you pay attention, behind the big ship, you have the little Master Ship with what I believe is the Valkyrie and the half of the Asgardians
why the
that work.
fuck wouldn't Thor go?
Because Thor's stopping Thanos. Thor's slowing Thanos down.
No, he's not.
No. But real quick, what I was saying is like that opening scene is very powerful and lets you know like this is not going to be a happy-go-lucky movie.
No, the first 5 minutes set the tone.
Because when he grabs Loki by the neck, and you see his face turn blue, you see his veins start popping, and you just hear his neck crack, and he falls to the floor.
Yeah,
you're just like, I don't think this is fake this time.
The death that you see in that movie, like,
because that hits hard.
Loki and Heimdall's death get dragged out. You see the life.
Yeah, because they both.
People.
And that they hit Heimdall and Loki dying, especially Loki, hits really hard because at this point, it's like a lot of people thinking, oh no, well he might come back, and then you just see his lifeless body hit the floor, and it's like I don't think he's coming back.
And it also showcases brilliantly.
Now he did, but that's like a whole different thing.
Well,
Thanos' character in the MCU. Thanos likes to portray himself as this selfless hero,
he thinks
playing the villain to save the universe, and then you see the truth every time someone gets close or threatens his plan. When he gets just a little too cruel and a little too sadistic for someone who's just trying to do what's necessary, he chokes Loki out slowly. He didn't have to do that. He could have just snapped his fingers and killed him. But he chokes him out. Slowly. He stabs Heimdall and twists.
That wasn't
him.
Was it Thanos?
I don't think that was Thanos.
I'm pretty sure it was Thanos.
Somebody did.
That doesn't matter at this point.
It was mostly the fact it was like the thing. It's not the fact that he took the time to choke it. It was the fact that once it snapped, you saw Thanos go.
And you see that moment where he just,
It's like that whole thing. It's like that's what did it for me. If it had been a little faster, it wouldn't have mattered because he took that breath and that smile that he just he snapped this dude's neck.
Now, there's one part of that scene that
and then like just see Thor crawl over to Loki, weeping, and basically Thor, in that is the moment, just basically accepting death.
There is one moment in that scene that absolutely frustrates me all to hell, and this goes back into everything that I hate about the way the Hulk is portrayed in the MCU, and it's like when he gets his ass handed to him by Thanos. Now, don't get me wrong, Thanos can beat Hulk in hand-to-hand combat to an extent. Like, obviously, he's not taking on World Breaker Hulk without his... But I get it. He wasn't even using the fucking stones.
That's the thing.
He wasn't even using the stones. He had
the Power Stone, so if he wanted to... Because no matter what happens, in that fight, he wins. One, because he has the Power Stone, and two, Hulk's never fought somebody like Thanos before.
He's never fought somebody as powerful as him.
Yeah.
But the problem is, Hulk is powerful enough, even without Thanos' martial art shit that he was using... That should have been more of a fight. That shouldn't have been Hulk just getting his ass fucking handed to him. I don't care.
I thought what was interesting about that fight was when Hulk had him, and then Thanos went up and grabbed him and peeled his arms away. You saw that look of confusion, and then Hulk looked up at Thanos, and then Thanos got him in the nose, and that caused him to reel. And then Thanos just pummeled him, giving Hulk no time to really process what's going on. Because Hulk's whole thing is the stronger he gets, the angrier he gets. So Thanos didn't give him...
The angrier he gets, the stronger.
Yeah, that's what I meant. He didn't give him an inch and took him out and basically thwomped him super fast. That's why I believe it wouldn't be less... Like, that was the problem that Tony had, like, in the Hulk versus Hulkbuster. Tony kept giving Hulk time to process, get back up,
his ass
get pissed,
and get pissed off.
But Thanos went in, and he went in hard.
And he did not relent.
The only problem I have is that there should have been a rematch.
Yeah,
Hulk should have gotten should have had that comeuppance. There should have been a rematch in Endgame where Hulk at least either he wins, which is unlikely, or something stops their fight. Like, it should, in my opinion, it should have been Captain Marvel who puts Thanos on his ass. It should have been Hulk. Because that was freaking
Hulk should have been jumping for a
World
rematch.
Breaker Hulk. I wanted my fucking World Breaker Hulk scene, and I didn't fucking get it. Even though World Breaker Hulk, it requires a man with the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns to go at a standstill. Not even to beat him, to go to a standstill with World Breaker Hulk. I fucking love World Breaker Hulk so much, and it pisses me off that I didn't get to see it in the movies.
So like I said,
but back to Infinity War.
Yeah, I like that fight. And it made sense, in my opinion, why Hulk loses. And even if it's like, he's like, he should have used the stone. It's like, well, it doesn't matter if he should have, because he already had it, and therefore he was.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna jump back and forth between the two because.
Well, you have to.
Infinity War and Endgame kind of like fuse together in my mind.
They're so tight.
I tend to forget where one ends and the other begins.
Yeah, and then you get to Earth, and like things slow down a little bit.
You're giving a second to process and grieve.
And Tony's there. It's Tony and Doctor Strange, and it's like, Thanos is coming. Who?
Did you seriously just say hitherto undreamt of? Are you seriously leaning on the cauldron of the cosmos? I'm going to allow that. If Thanos needs all 6, why don't you just flush it down the garbage disposal? Nope, it stays with me. The whole thing is like, and I like the idea. It's like Tony and Strange butt heads constantly throughout the movie because they each have a different idea of what it takes to defend the universe. And Tony's simple, his pragmatic answer is he needs all 6.
Let's just
get rid of that.
Get rid of that one.
And he's like, nope, I'm the Sorcerer Supreme. It is my sworn duty to protect it. And as a result, you, being Sorcerer Supreme, have to confront the bad guy, but you confronting the bad guy brings it to him. It's like, you might want to stick that gem in your back pocket there, Doc. Might want to use it. And then he doesn't actually use it.
Yeah.
He never uses the time stone in the movie, which is...
Oh, I totally agree.
And of course,
Tony
the
on that
cacophony of reasons. Everyone's already pointed out how they could have won and they should have won, and then but
we're not here to get into that. Like, that's a whole nother ball game in and of itself.
Although I do like
I think my favorite scene, because I'm a fanboy. My favorite scene is, whenever they have all 4 of their things trying to take Vision, you get the stone from Vision, and it's like, fucking just Cap and Black Widow.
They just throw the spear and Cap dodges and catches.
Yeah, man, it's so good.
This freaking super droid android and the Scarlet Witch can't take on these 2 guys, and then the regular ass humans show
and they start kicking their asses. It's amazing. I love it.
That was a great scene. Really good.
I loved it.
And while Vision and Wanda's romance, it was foreshadowed in Civil War, but it definitely got a jump start. Like, they skipped ahead. It's like, oh no, they're in love with each other, and it's like, okay.
And you could see it.
And they gave us a scene. Which was way more than what Natasha and Bruce
got.
Yeah. They had a whole scene where it's like, no, these are 2 people, and they have really good chemistry, and I think they're really cute together. But Bruce and Natasha never really got that. Mostly because I knew Wanda and Vision way more. It was kind of weird. It's like, Natasha, she's my favorite in Endgame and Winter Soldier. But in Winter Soldier, she has better chemistry with Steve.
Mm-hmm.
And in Endgame, it's her whole thing is she's like, I'm doing this for my family.
Yeah.
Natasha, I remember, was like a romance. Whereas with Wanda and Vision... in Civil War, they have that one great scene where Vision is trying to cheer up Wanda by cooking her a meal. You don't get a scene like that between Bruce and Natasha. And then when Infinity War comes around, it's like you guys really look like crap. Well, I think you look great. Bruce. This is awkward. Is it, though? Because that's where it begins and that's where it ends.
Yeah.
There's no real fallout.
And I get that a lot of people weren't pleased. They thought that came out of nowhere and they didn't like it and blah, 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 blah. It didn't match my comic book romance.
I don't care about that.
I don't care. I thought that had some serious potential that they just sort of didn't do anything with.
Especially now that Natasha's dead. Honestly, I think, it all comes down to that last 30 minutes. The Battle of Wakanda.
Yeah, well, like, when it comes, like, to Bruce and Natasha, like, they have a scene together, but that entire scene is Natasha playing the Black Widow, the interrogator. I'm here to suss him out and see if he can be useful to S.H.I.E.L.D. She's not talking to him straight.
Oh, they had that scene in Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have joined you. I'm like, what? This came out of nowhere.
But that was more the fact of
also
like,
when
they're showering together. But even then, that scene's most effective of them mourning the loss of their relationship because now this has happened, and it's like it's showing us all the reasons why we can't be together, which would have been more impactful if the romance had actually had
somewhere to begin with.
A build. Instead of just being
built this romance.
Instead of just the movie starts and is like, oh, she likes it. It's like I've seen her flirt. This ain't it. It's like, really? Like that. I'm still. It's like if there had been more time, I would have bought it more. And since there was no fallout of that relationship going nowhere, like I thought the reason why it was awkward is because I straight up thought that Steven and Hush had gotten together in those 2 years they were on the run.
Yeah.
But didn't happen.
Yeah, no. Everything that I saw of the relationship makes me think of they were just brother and sister. Which is interesting.
I love things. The thing that I really liked was Thor's relationship with Rocket. It's like how the Guardians get respond to the distress signal and they go after him and they find Thor floating through space and he's alive.
Because he's a badass.
And then it's like, oh my god! It's like all the Guardians react. I keep thinking like Asgardians of the Galaxy, and that's not right. It's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Because that's what Thor names them. Yeah, it's great.
All the Guardians are reacting to Thor and how he's like this awesome, and Quill's used to being the handsome human-looking person, and now that Thor's here and he's like 6 inches taller and like 100 pounds more of just muscle and like the good facial hair and all this shit, and he's like. Oh my god, I'm threatened.
Yeah.
Even though Star-Lord is... I fucking love Star-Lord. I'm sorry, I just really like Star-Lord.
It's like, fun fact. If any of you want to play the Infinity War drinking game, where one of the rules is you have to drink every time somebody says Stone, Thanos, or Avengers... That scene
is gonna kill you.
Will kill you.
You will die.
Because every single line has at least one of those words in it.
Most of them have two.
Thanos is going after the Reality Stone. He already has a Power Stone and the Space Stone. Now he's going to nowhere to get oh my god!
Oh my god!
There was times where me and Ryan couldn't even put down our drinks.
Yeah, because I don't drink, but we just like, oh, this is interesting. So the three of us looked at it. And that scene made us stop.
Yeah,
because Codig, in that scene alone, and not even the entire scene, blew through 2 beers in that one scene. And right after that scene, because one of the other rules is whenever Thanos acquires a stone, finish your drinks. So with that one scene and then the next one, that's minimum 3 beers gone. Not to mention, because Thanos acquires a stone at the beginning of the movie, you have to down an entire beer at the beginning of the movie. Like, I started keeping track of drinks after that scene, which takes place about 30 minutes into the movie. 189 drinks.
That
not including the other 4 beers that you have to down.
Whenever Thanos acquires stones. So you might want to modify that rule and get rid of every time somebody says stone,
or you will die.
Because there are other rules I haven't listed. You can look them up very easily. But if you ever do that game, first off, do not use liquor of any kind.
Use something soft.
Use a low alcoholic drink, and consider modifying the rules a little bit.
Or you will die.
Like this game needs to come with a Surgeon General's warning.
Either do that or have a doctor on call.
So what are y'all's opinions on Stormbreaker, on how that was made?
On one hand, it upsets me because that basically implies Beta Ray Bill is never going to show up.
I didn't think he was going to show up from the beginning.
There was always the option.
Yeah,
there was the option, but I didn't see it coming.
Also, Stormbreaker being way more of an axe than a hammer was also a little interesting.
It was really cool.
I mean, I really liked it.
The only thing I'm upset about was, of course, this is Endgame. This is not Infinity War. Was I always wanted Tony to go there and make his Uru armor. I honestly had a prediction that was going to happen, and it never did, which upsets me, but kind of because we actually get to see the Forge, which I've talked to several people about this. Apparently, I'm the only one who had this reaction when they go to the Forge, and then you see the dwarf. I literally sat there. I was like, "That's Peter Dinklage."
Yeah,
that's Peter Dinklage. It pulled me out of the scene so hard. I don't know who I was expecting, but like it just like ripped me out of the scene.
If someone is playing a dwarf in a movie, it is always going to be Peter Dinklage.
I know.
I loved how it
just ripped me out of the scene. I just completely lost my immersion.
Here's how that recruiting conversation actually went according to Peter Dinklage. Hey, the Marvel guys came up to Peter and was like, "Hey, we want you to play in Infinity Wars. We have a great spot for you." And Peter Dinklage was like, "Cool, but I have to be a dwarf." And they're like, "Cool, but you're 12 feet tall." And Peter was like, "I'm okay with this."
It's so interesting seeing Peter Dinklage taller than everybody else.
It's like, you'll be facing the full force of a star, boy. It'll kill you.
Only if I die.
Yes, that's what killing you
means. Like, it's probably one of my favorite lines in the movie.
Like that's Thor Infinity War is by far the best iteration of Thor. He is so good in that movie because he's just
the right amount of quippy, but also the right amount of
straight-laced warrior.
That raw heroism that he drips with, and that one scene where he gets with Rocket. Rocket's like, "All right, time to be the captain." It's like, "So, dead brother, huh? That sucks. Well, he's been dead before, but I think this one might be for keeps." It's like, yeah. You got any other siblings? Sister?
And your sister and your dad.
Had to kill her.
Both dead.
It's like, Mom?
Still got a mom, though? Killed by a dark elf. A best friend? Stabbed to the heart.
You sure you're up for this particular murder mission? Absolutely. Mourning, loss, grief, it clears the mind, so I'm good to go.
Good to go.
It just really sucks for Thor in these movies because he's literally lost everything.
Yeah. He's lost more than everyone.
I'm over 5,000 years old.
In that movie
I've killed twice as many, and each one would have gladly killed me in exchange. The only reason I'm alive is because fate demands it. What if you're wrong? If I'm wrong, then what more could I lose? And it's that single tear that drops that he catches and then gets up and then because he
can't allow himself.
He can't allow himself to dwell in it. So the whole thing is like, he hasn't fought me. Yes, he has. Hasn't fought me twice. And look, he's so confident in his abilities. Like you almost believe he's going to do it.
And he almost does.
He almost does.
Should have aimed for the head.
Should have gone for the head.
It's funny, he's an Endgame when he has.
And he would have if he would have won if he had gone for the head.
Or if he after he got him in the chest had actually then delivered the killing blow, instead of being like, "I told you, you would die for that," and then presses it into his, and then he let Thanos speak. If he had just hit him and then gone up to him and then taken the axe out and then hit him again, that would be the end of it. But no, he wanted to just savor this, and that's what took it.
And that drives it even more because it's like, not only did I lose everything, I caused the death.
I was within. Victory was within my reach. I almost saved the day.
And through my own
hubris,
I failed.
And thirst for vengeance.
Well, that's so good. Yeah, that's really good.
It's also one of the reasons why it really
and
pisses
just
me
like
off what they do with it
I
in
think,
Endgame.
like in all honesty, the scene of everyone getting dusted, like there was a lot that got hit, but like I think it was really Peter's that hits the hardest.
If it had gone on a second longer, I totally would have cried.
Because like with his spider
and
sense,
I am a sociopath. I don't cry.
You know we're fucking going off because it's like I'm dying and there's nothing I can do to stop it.
It's like that detail that was given to us by the directors, like because this Peter's spider sense, it knew what was going on, so it was tingling so much it was causing him pain, and his healing factor slowed it down. So he had that moment to contemplate.
Which makes you think that if Wolverine was in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which apparently he is, they're talking about bringing him in. Which suggests that if he was dusted, was he actually dusted, or was he still like constantly regenerating?
Depends on, because like the way it's
from how it's betrayed in X3 with like the Phoenix Force ripping people to pieces, it functions a lot like the dusting, and the fact that he survived that, and that was way faster.
Yeah.
Maybe.
He's just one guy walking around Earth, consistently spewing confetti.
I think it just depends on how the dusting was supposed to happen. Did they get turned to dust? Or Were they pulled apart? Or did he make them cease to be? Like, that's, I think, was he killing them, or was he making them cease?
I don't know.
I think the goal was to make them cease, but I'm not 100% sure.
Because I think that was the interesting thing about Thanos, why he chose to make them to dust. Nobody suffered.
Yeah.
Except Peter, but that was. I honestly thought when everyone was starting to get dusted, and the whole thing between Hulk and Banner, that entire movie, I thought
one
Banner,
of them was going to be left alone.
I honestly thought Banner was going to vanish. I thought he was going to get snapped, and then Hulk was going to be left, and that was what would lead into World Breaker Hulk for the next movie. Because without Banner, that's what World Breaker Hulk is. But no.
Nope.
Which is bad.
Another big thing I want to get into. Before we move on,
because we could keep going, but we're gonna.
I love the fight between Doctor Strange and Thanos.
Oh, is it that stare down?
Where you've got Thanos has like power, reality, space, soul, and he's barely able to keep up with.
We never really see what soul does. We never really understand.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't, but we never really get to see it and utilize it.
We have like a couple of hints, but they're just kind of eh.
It's just there to complete the collection.
It's funny, it's like you see...
And to kill Gamora.
You see...
and Black Widow.
Tony and Doctor Strange, and maybe Peter, depending on how you want to quantify it, take on Thanos by themselves. But...
Only Strange and Tony really show gaining headway.
All that for a drop of blood.
Thanos...
That was so
Strange
powerful.
was able to counter everything Thanos could do to him. Up to a point. And Tony was able to make him bleed.
It is an interesting question, though, because, like, a simple spell, but I assure you, quite unbreakable. And yet he still thought it best to remove the stone from the eye and send it away. Which makes you wonder, why didn't he use it in the battle? If the spell was unbreakable, it was because he had the reality stone, and via how magic functions, he could undo it. But even then, Strange wouldn't know that he had the reality stones. There's the whole thing about, like, I don't know, it's just an interesting question. It's like, why did he decide to make that choice?
No, remember, Strange saw the future before the fight happened. He knew exactly what Thanos was going to walk into that fight with.
And he was like, there is only one option that causes us to win.
There's one outcome that he saw.
That was a victory.
And the only way for this victory to happen is for me and all these other people to die.
And I also think this is also an important thing for people to consider.
For 5 years.
When he's... a lot of people like to say, like, well, there's, like, all kinds of different ways that fight could have gone down. Yeah, but there are only so many outcomes.
Well, that wouldn't have done anything if he had just done the little space portal and cut off the gauntlet.
Yeah.
Because you can't put the gauntlet on the other fucking hand, can you?
I'm sure you could just... Like, especially if he, like, cut it, like, right at where the metal met his flesh. Can you imagine Thanos trying to fucking pull his own hand? He, like put it, like, between his legs, trying to, like, pull, like, his friggin'
Yeah, that would have been very much a pain in the ass. But yeah, I like the idea that we established that there is only one.
Which is completely untrue, but
I
understand
absurdly
why
bullshit.
the writers put that in.
But
he was almost assuredly lying his ass
off. Let's move on to the next
one
on the list.
I love the fact
it's actually
that
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Which, fun fact, Ryan and I
just watched it.
Literally watched
we all just watched
Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel were movies that Ryan and I did not watch because when they came out, we really had no interest, and then Endgame came out, and we're like, there's really nothing that happens in those movies that we need to really see now. But we were going to talk about it, so it's like, in good conscience, we cannot talk about Phase
the
3
movies without watching them, so I had to suffer through Brie Larson.
Okay, no, that's inaccurate. Brie Larson did not do a bad job in that movie. As an actor, she's okay. But that's Captain Marvel, Ant-Man and the Wasp first.
Yeah.
That movie was a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think
Paul Rudd did a much better job in this movie than he did in the first one.
Now, I personally love
Paul Rudd
and the Wasp. It's one of my favorite
Ant-Man.
movies.
Okay, cool. I don't know actors' names.
Anyways.
I don't know actors' names, dude.
I think the movie was great. Did it really have that much to do with the overall plot of... Like, other than establishing getting in and out of the quantum realm,
yeah, that was
it really didn't do very much
for
the overall
all it did.
Arching storyline of Endgame. Now, it probably set it up for later additions into the MCU past Endgame, but did it really do much for Endgame? No, not really.
It mostly just explained the vehicle they were going to use to
save the world.
Yeah.
But it was an overall good story with, you know, Scott Lang being Scott Lang, Dad of the Year, and...
Of course...
No. Best Grandma of the Year.
Yeah.
Get it right.
World's Best Grandma.
World's Best Grandma.
Of course, Ryan and I have... We see one plot hole, and then the ending itself, Ryan and I don't much like.
We're not super
appreciative. I
appreciative.
enjoy it, but...
Because it's like... The plot hole of it being is Ghost and...
If they're trying to use the quantum realm to heal Ghost, why are they interrupting the people trying to use the quantum realm?
Like, I can understand her going in, taking the piece they need, and then stealing the lab. I could see that. But once they go to Lawrence Fishburne's character and be like, hey, this is what we're doing, we need to find the lab, can you help us? That's the moment you should have said, I have your lab, and this is why. And explain. They do explain that, yes, him and Hank have a history, and they hate each other, but your goals are basically the same. And even if his ideas, like, we're going to extract her quantum energy, that will kill her. It's like, you have, especially since later on in the movie he agrees, like, hang on, this could actually kill her. And she herself is a scientist. Between the three of us, we could come up with a solution. But the fact that it's like that was the solution to your problem. It's like, because Hank and him and Janet would be the three leading experts on the quantum realm. If they could find a solution, that would be it. And I understand Ghost. Ghost, I get her thing. Because she's in pain for so long. And she's been dying for a long time. So her desperation and her inability to compromise, I could see.
And also, just to have that pain. Could you imagine living with your body tearing itself apart and putting itself back
for over
again
10 years?
Every single second of every minute of every hour of every day for 10 years.
Over. Yeah. And then so I get that. So it's like, why didn't you just ask? Like, I get not asking for help initially, but when they came to you, it's like, hey,
just
you need to get this back. Especially since he gave them, it's like, hey, you could find it by doing this. He gave them the way to interrupt his plan, literally. So why would you bother? Just ask for their help. Even if you were going to kidnap them, that would be like, I have an idea. Follow me, and then ambush them and tie them up. Something. Don't do
something.
I do like the black market guy who's like he doesn't really have any interest. He's out
I
there.
love his existence. He's
mostly
being
just there to be like, I'm here to make a buck. And I understand, you're Hope, and your father's Hank Pym, and you're working on quantum energy. That's the next thing. And I want it, because I have buyers for it, so I'm going to take it from you.
And the great thing about it is he, A, does not understand the technology, and B, doesn't really give a shit about it. He doesn't give a shit if it works or not. He just wants it to sell it for an easy buck. He is the true pressing threat and danger to the project. Because Ghost wants it to succeed.
Well, him and the FBI.
Ghost wants it to succeed. And the heroes want it to succeed. So he is the only one actively engaging the heroes who is an actual threat to the project itself.
Yeah, the only thing keeping Ghost and the heroes working together is a single conversation. That is it. With the Black Market guy, there is no conversation they can have where their goals will align.
And because he doesn't actually care about the technology, he just wants to sell it. And he can do that whether it's broken or not, because who's going to say either way? No one's going to know. The only people who know are the people he probably killed to get the thing. So...
Exactly.
And they do keep it light, and they do keep it funny, and they don't really hang on anything too long, like
which is a great thing.
Makes sense, because they didn't want the movie to be super dark, especially after Infinity War.
Yeah.
Also, it's Ant-Man, so it shouldn't have been dark. It's Ant-Man. He's wacky, goofy,
and the
thief hero.
The problem that Ryan and I have with the ending was Ghost was healed by basically, as I understand it, Janet just gave her the X quantum energy that she's had stored in her body, which yes solves her problem, but it felt less like we found the solution and more I magic your thing away. Now, apparently Codig doesn't agree with this, and I'm going to give him a chance to explain why he doesn't agree with it for you. But that's how Ryan and I feel. It most felt like the driving, the whole thing, the reason why she was so desperate in the first place, just
got hand waved away. It's like, yeah, go away.
For one, they didn't know that was going to happen. They didn't know that she'd have those abilities. So of course, like that whole driving plot of that desperation would still be there because they didn't know that she would have those abilities.
No, I'm not arguing that. Like that desperation, like they had no way of knowing.
Yeah, but here's the problem: we had no way of knowing. So instead of a aha moment, we have a what?
Well, there is no. I mean, yeah, it is kind of a what moment, which I totally agree with that. But the thing is she was just giving her the quantum energy that she had stored within herself. The whole thing that they were planning on doing from the beginning. Absorbing the quantum energy that she had stored within her. The difference was she was able to give it to her instead of having to have it extracted from her body and tearing her apart.
Well, there's one fact was like the entire movie they're doing things with technology and all this stuff. Like we had to build a machine to get her out of the quantum realm. We had to build a machine to extract quantum energy. We had to build a machine.
And these are powers. Stuff. It's not technology. She even says it to Hank. While they're in the quantum realm,
she explains that there's like it's less about
she has evolved.
Yes, I get that. But the thing is, though, she says I have evolved, but they don't tell us how.
They don't tell you. They show you.
Here's the problem.
She herself says even I don't know. Thus implying, and she says I don't know if this is going to work. Thus ripping away. There's no hard-earned victory here when it comes to Ghost. It's just. I would have preferred, even if it was a simple solution, if it was a simple thing, is like, I have this, like I said, Janet could still be the one to saves the day. Like, replace it from her just touching her head and being cured. Have Janet pull out a device or a battery or something. It's like, I was working on this. I used this to grab quantum energy to study it to maybe trying to find a way out, but I think this will help you more than it helps me. Have that be the solution instead of just, like, it's just like, is it like freaking, like, taking the holy water and splashing it on her and being like, now you're cured? It's one of the reasons why this bothers me is because I just remember there's so many times where Tony Stark, Hank Pym, Reed Richards are faced with a person with this horrible affliction caused upon them, and they have to pull their minds and resources together to solve the problem and work hard and showing you this is what science and dedication can do. Instead, it's just, oh, you've been tortured for 10 years, dying constantly. Mommy, please make it better.
We get it, Ryan.
And here's the flaw with this. If you're going to have a problem like this, you have to follow the rules of magic, science.
It's not magic, it's powers.
Magic, science, superpowers, all of those all follow the same 3 rules. One of them being the most important. If you're going to solve the problem with magic, science, or superpowers, your ability to solve that problem satisfactorily hinges upon your audience understanding the magic, science, superpower.
Like, you don't even understand what quantum realm energy is.
They don't explain it to you. They say
you
has powers.
They're not supposed to explain it. That was not the goal of that movie.
Janet says, "Okay, hey, you're coming to get me. It took me 30 years to give you location. Be careful when you come to get me, though, because it's going through the quantum planes. Because human minds are not meant to comprehend it.
Yeah.
So when Hank has to come out and he starts losing his mind, and Janet approaches him and pulls him out of it."
It's satisfactorily because you know there's a problem and you know she's already had to solve it.
But
so you know she's got a solution.
Whenever they're in the quantum realm and what's happening to him is what was happening to Ghost.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
He was being torn apart. You could see it. He was doing the exact quote-unquote animations. Real quick, 1 second, let me explain before you
I know you saw the animations. Like, I was thinking, I didn't see those animations where it was like you saw multiple humans fading. And it was like,
exactly.
I didn't see that.
You didn't see that?
I didn't see that.
I didn't see that.
Well, that's what happened.
I had a theory that might have been what was going on, but I didn't get to see
the way
it.
she fixed his problem. That actually, it's on the screen. Whether or not you saw it has nothing to do with it.
I'd have to rewatch the scene. I didn't see that.
Well,
if I have to rewatch the scene, then it's been done.
But basically, what was happening to Hank was similar to what was happening with Ghost. Now, keep in mind, she wasn't in the quantum realm anymore, so she didn't know. That is my personal thing of like she didn't know it was going to work because she was no longer in the quantum realm.
I think about it. It's more than adaptation. It's evolution. My thinking is Janet in the comics has powers, so that's my thinking. Oh, her evolution, her powers are going to be the powers she has in the comics. Which, again, this is not a 1-to-1 translation. None of these characters are 100% accurate to their comic iterations. But when they say she's evolved and she's been in the quantum realm, which has been shrinking, I thought it meant she now has the ability to shrink and grow on her own, implying that I evolved to be more in line with actually having superpowers. I don't need a suit anymore.
No, well, they might do that, but we don't know.
That's what I think. As an audience member who knows the comics, that's what I expected. And we've harped on this really too long. It's
time to move.
Well, let's just move on to the next one. Let's move on to Captain Marvel.
Another rant.
It's
okay. I don't like Captain
movie.
Marvel, the comic book character. I never really have. She's powerful, and I like strong women. I don't like overly arrogant and braggadocious characters. Tony gets away with it, in my opinion, because he's funny. I don't find Marvel funny. And while this movie is... I don't think... Brie Larson does not do a bad job. Her ego after the movie was annoying, but with the actual performance itself, I had no issues with her, except for the fact that it felt like they were trying to flip back and forth between her being a stoic soldier and more of an actual quippy. Because one of the problems they have is you need to keep your emotions in check. That's the thing that she's being reinforced all the time by the Kree. And then you have Samuel L. Jackson, who is amazing as always, being he's the agent, he's a defender, he's a protector like she is, but he's making jokes the entire time.
He's constantly having fun because he's a spy. I mean, that's just kind of what you do. When you're a spy, you have fun because otherwise it's a really, really
And I do
dark
like the whole
shit.
thing. It was like, I kind of disagree with the whole fact of like good guy, bad guy, because like the Kree and Skrull War is supposed to be like this. There is no villains.
Yeah,
there is no
it's
good guys.
supposed to be more nuanced than it's just, oh, this Skrull refused to bow to the Kree and so they were exterminated and now they're
It's
on
not
the
even
run.
really a twist because you know the Kree are villains.
Yeah.
Well, at least Ronan.
Well, Ronan was, but he was also explained
also,
that the Ronan was an extremist and that the Kree did not quote unquote support his actions. But that was against the Nova Corps. It wasn't even against
the
Skrulls.
Yeah.
It was just like it was an overall decent movie with
It's an
good
okay
acting
movie
and
with...
The main problem all three of us have. And it's really kind of innocuous, but it bothers all of us because of a line earlier. In Winter Soldier, when Steve is talking to Nick, and basically it's like, you really need to be more trusting. Last time I trusted somebody, I lost an eye. You find out he lost his eye to the shape-shifted cat.
That he kept!
which is fucking annoying because that scene, it takes away all the fucking power of that line in the Winter Soldier.
And the worst part is, there's a scene earlier in the movie where, in our opinions, that would have worked better.
Yeah, no.
Coulson, Agent Coulson is in the movie, and it turns out that basically Nick was his training officer. He was a new agent.
So
and
Nick,
because the Skrull are shapeshifters, during the chase, they're chasing after Captain Marvel because they don't know who she is yet. And it turns out one of the Skrulls transformed into Coulson. So they're driving in a car, and then he gets a phone call saying that Coulson's like, "Hey, I was bagging evidence," and then he left. What the heck? That's when he realized that's an alien. That's not Coulson. And they have a fight in the car, which causes them to spin out, and he slams into a bus, I think, or something.
A train.
To kill...
Because Nick Fury, and only Nick Fury, would be ballsy enough to drive and intentionally get fucking T-boned by a train to gain an edge in a fight.
And they slam into it. It kills the Skrull, and on the correct eye, mind you, he has a wound. That would have been the
eye
perfect...
is bloodshot red. That would have been the
perfect opportunity for the loss of his eye. Because he dropped his guard. He trusted someone without
also
verifying.
should have been way more beat the hell and back.
Oh yeah, no, that Skrull was freaking dead, but he was fine with just that one boo-boo on his forehead.
That's kind of... No.
Yeah, absolutely not.
He should have been fucked up.
That is honestly my biggest problem with that movie, was that whole thing. And
overall, the movie was okay. There's nothing really bad or... Oh, there's another problem we have. Where the fuck did Captain Marvel get her powers from the Tesseract, the Space Stone?
Yeah, she should have clearly gotten it from the
Her powers in the comics are to absorb and release energy. Why does the Space Stone
give her those powers?
And the weird part is, the Tesseract does not, in any way, need to be in this movie. It was in S.H.I.E.L.D. custody before this movie, and after this movie.
After this movie.
And the initial explanation is, she got her powers because she absorbed the energy from a Kree-created engine with space radiation. I thought that was a perfectly adequate explanation why she got energy. It was a faster-than-light engine.
Yeah, it was dope as shit. I liked it.
And then it was, it's the Tesseract. That doesn't make any sense. That makes no sense. If her powers was creating portals or teleporting, that would make sense.
But Captain Marvel's powers is that she absorbs energy and can emit them as laser blasts. Which is not teleportation.
And I do like the idea is like they established that when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, she is not as good as her commanding officer,
which was really cool.
And there's an entire crew of highly trained elite soldiers, and she has to fight them later. She doesn't just become more skilled than the rest of them. It's she finally understands what her powers are, and she's really starting to tap into her full potential. She doesn't beat these guys by being better than them. She outguns them. That's the victory. And the fact that she's so powerful, she doesn't actually quite know. Like, she shoots a blast and sends herself across the room. I think that's way better than. And I love the whole thing. Is like at the end, it's like, all right, no more guns. You prove to me that you can beat me without your blasts and all that stuff. And then she just shoots him. Is like,
I don't prove to you.
I don't have anything to prove to you. I like that because that is the correct solution to that problem. Screw you.
Exactly.
You've lied to me. You lied to me. You tried to kill me.
You betrayed me.
I have nothing to prove to you. Screw you.
But that's about all we have to say about Captain Marvel, because it's just.
It was okay.
It's an okay movie. Besides that, it's an okay movie.
And now it's time to move on.
Weakens
the big
Fury's character, which I didn't think was possible, because he's amazing, but they did it somehow. And
time for the big boy.
Now it's time for the big boy.
Endgame.
Fuck the way they portrayed Hulk in that movie. Just starting off right there, right here, right now.
Oh no!
Professor Hulk.
No. Give me a minute to fucking rant about this, okay?
Okay, cool. Only if I'm allowed a chance to rant about what they did to Thor.
Okay, first of all, we're gonna go into that in a minute. But first of all,
it seems like they had Professor Hulk. It seemed like he's a little grace. Maybe they're a great Hulk. No, it was just.
No, it's just. Oh, I'm the Hulk, but I'm Banner. And I don't even have the strength of the Hulk or the smarts of Banner, just for some fucking... It's like, I see this as an absolute win. Funny line, yeah, but it's not the fucking Hulk. Where's my World Breaker Hulk? Where's my fucking Hulk? And then it gets even fucking worse whenever they go into the whole scene. It's like they're going back to New York, and he's just like, oh, it's gratuitous. And he's just like, yeah. You are the fucking Hulk, sir. You are the fucking Hulk.
And
get your shit together.
Miss another opportunity. When he's talking to the Ancient One and she fucking pushes his astral form out, I was like, oh shit, she unleashed the World Breaker because Bruce is gone. No,
just knocks the Hulk out.
I thought that was going to be the major issue. It was like, oh
shit.
He
gets a funny hat.
And I thought there was going to be a Hulk fighting a Hulk. I thought that's where they were going with that. It's like, oh.
That would have been so freaking dope.
Nope.
But no.
It was fucking.
Instead, he gets leaned off to the side with a fanny hat.
He doesn't even get to join in the fucking battle because his fucking his arm is torn up from fucking the snap.
And you know that scene in the comics where Hulk picks up a literal mountain to give the Avengers time to make a plan. They put a spin on that.
And
but it's not as cool.
It's just a building.
Because it's just a building. It's taking on water, and it's just
him and
Rhodey and Rocket. Yeah.
And he's losing.
This
is the fucking. This is the guy that can shake the entire planet by taking a footstep.
Also, it's interesting, the whole like Bruce being the one that snaps his finger to bring everyone back. On one hand, I don't think he earned that in any way. But I get it because of the point is like, oh, snapping his fingers almost killed him. So a normal person snapping, it's going to obliterate them, which leans into Tony's death. Sure, but and like Thor, in my opinion, is the whole thing is like, let me do something good. Let me redeem myself. I failed. Let me do it. And they're like, no, you're in no position to do it. Now, granted, I don't think Thor would have fared any better. I think he would have been worse off for it, but at least Thor would have earned that.
One good thing about Hulk being the one that fixes everyone is it kind of... This is becoming very weird. Let me complete this thought, okay?
The monster that the world rejected and hated is the one that saves everybody?
It completes this arc of Hulk going from this mindless weapon of destruction to being a force of healing and creation, which is a fascinating arc.
It's undercut by the fact that it's
undercut Hulk. By everything else, and by the fact that we don't really get to see him be a weapon after Avengers 1, and that's kind of it. You see him a little bit in Age of Ultron, but not a whole lot. It's just Avengers, and that's where you get to see him in his full extent. You don't ever see Hulk reach those levels of raw power ever again.
Yeah. Time for the rant about Thor.
Okay. That was fucking bullshit.
Oh, I didn't even get to go about court.
Oh yeah, when it came to Ragnarok.
Yeah.
That was really fucking...
I
can't even...
love Thor.
So sad.
Thor is one of my favorite characters. After Iron Man and Strange, there's Thor. I love Thor. I love the power that he brings to the comics. That sheer heroicness to him. He is this warrior king who you take seriously because he is goddamn Thor, motherfucking God of Thunder. And he is treated like a fucking joke. This man who has lost everything, this god who has lost his entire people, his family, who has suffered, who has lost and is broken by the weight of the grief and the pain and the abject failure that he's accomplished, and everyone treats him like a joke? Are you fucking kidding me? This is your friend. This is your co-worker. This is not a laughing stock on the damn side. I'm gonna stop because I'm about to raise my voice and break this microphone. And okay, someone else rant now.
See, it comes down to the whole thing is like, the people that make fun of him the most is Tony. Fair, gonna happen. Rhodey, who I think definitely has some pull in that regard, is like, I've lost my goddamn legs doing the hero bit thing.
And Hulk.
I was gonna say Rocket.
Rocket, yeah. Well.
But Tony and Rocket are assholes. And Rhodey he's the veteran. Now obviously it doesn't compare to what Thor's been through, but he's got that weight, he's got that scar.
But no one takes him seriously.
No.
No one.
Like, yeah, he is a drunkard.
The one who treats him the best is Bruce, but only in that opening is like, hey, I know that guy scares you, but we need your help. It's like the whole thing is like he talks to him, is like, please take your hands off me. He gets it. It's like, I was in a bad place a while ago. You know who helped me? Natasha? It was you. It's like this whole thing is like he talks to him like a friend because he sees that he's hurting. Bruce is, honestly, that's the thing I would say. Bruce is just incredibly nice to everyone in that movie. He's nice to everyone. Like
hands Ant-Man a taco.
Yeah.
I think.
Sup, regular size man.
There's a lot of fucking shit going on in Endgame.
Like, honestly,
there's a lot of keep in mind we do love
break.
This movie and it is absolutely amazing. We just have to get
those
rants
were the
about
two
those two
biggest frustrations.
Out of the way.
Yeah, and honestly, I do like how far he fell. I know a lot of people were like, why is he turning to his fast stuff? The man watched his father, brother, best friend, mother, half of his people, twice, his home, all die and get destroyed. He has not once allowed himself to grieve. He has not once allowed himself to have a moment to feel the pain of what's going on.
And
it's always just, no, I'll just fight the bad guy, defeat him, and everything will be better. I'll just fix it by defeating the bad guy. I'll just fix it by defeating the bad guy.
Fails.
And then he fails. And all that comes down on top of him. I knew he was going to break. I knew it was going to be bad. I knew it was going to be awful.
And the initial joke is funny.
But then it just keeps going.
But then it's also the problem I have with that whole thing is like, wait, so no one, not a single member of the Avengers in 5 fucking years went to see him?
No one checked up on him.
How you doing? A fucking phone call? I don't know, maybe they called by phone. I don't know. Fuck. But nobody knew the position he was in. They knew where he was. They knew exactly where he was. None of them came to check on him. No one was like, hey, how you doing? Are you okay? Do you want
phone call.
Do you want to talk about it?
If you noticed, Korg in that movie is playing a PS4. This is a subtle reference to the fact that a PS5 is still out of stock.
A phone call could have...
They have this thing called email.
Yeah.
Anything.
You have a computer? No, why?
Because even if Thor didn't pick up the phone because he's too busy having his being depressed, he didn't pick up the phone. Which
also,
means...
I find it fucking bullshit that Valkyrie didn't just lose her goddamn temper and, like, drag his ass kicking and screaming out of it. Because guess what? She lost people too. She spent way longer than Thor being a drunken slob, just trying to push everything out and pretending like the world was something
and
other than
he brought
was.
her back.
Yeah, because that's what heroes do. It's like, so in my opinion, there's no like.
Valkyrie would not have stood
I'm not
for
saying
seeing that.
I'm not saying that Thor shouldn't have broken. I'm not saying that Thor would have been fine by the time that happened. It was going to be bad.
It was going to be bad. It should have been bad. It should have been.
And I like how they recover from it with Thor having a conversation with his mom, really solidifying and explaining to you why he missed her so much.
That relationship was built really well in that movie, and it really added a lot of weight to her death in Thor 2.
It makes me retroactively like Thor the Dark World more, because it actually established their fucking relationship, which they hadn't done yet.
And it's like, it doesn't even take that long. It's a short line of dialogue between the two.
It's one conversation.
After all,
well,
if you were a fool, you wouldn't be here.
1.5 conversations.
The wisdom of the wisest person in Asgard.
It's like, you really should leave the sneaking to your brother.
You're not my son.
You're not the Thor I know at all, are you? I'm totally.
And it's even better when whenever he catches Mjolnir and he's like, I'm still worthy.
It's like, so that was nice. They definitely recovered well, but it's like the idea that it's just like they spent every moment up to that point just kicking this guy more and more and more. But I did like the idea. It's like, that's my mother. She dies today. Oh, that's today? It's like, I gotta do this. Come here. It's right here. Come here. Listen, can you keep me together for 2 seconds? I lost people too. So you think you can rush the crumbs out of your beard, keep it together, and distract Fancy Pants long enough if you just jab this thing in there so I can get my family back?
Exactly. Rocket lost. It's the same thing. Rocket and Thor were the best two people to go together. Because Rocket is like Thor. He didn't just lose, he lost only people he ever loved.
It's like, so he lost Groot once, and then got him back.
And then he lost him again.
Yeah.
And everyone else.
It's like, you know what Groot's last words were, right? They were father. That sucks.
That's so
Especially
painful.
after the idea, like, he was going to let Quill die. At the end of Guardians 2, he's like, Quill's going to sacrifice himself for us. And whenever Drax was going to go back in after him, or Gamora, no, I think Gamora was going to go in after him, he shot her. It's like, I can only afford to lose one friend today. So we accept that reality. It's like, he's going to save us. But then all of his friends, his family died. And they accomplished nothing. They lost. And then it's like with Nebula. So it's like, Nebula's the only person he really had left, but he didn't have a relationship with Nebula. He just knew, like, oh, that's Gamora's sister. So when they sit down and they hold hands, and obviously they build a relationship in those 5 years. But that's not a substitute. That's not a replacement. So the fact that Rocket I like that the people they sent where and when makes the most sense. It was so good. And, like, Natasha and Hawkeye.
Oh, Hawkeye in that movie.
It had to be them.
Oh, man. Hawkeye in that movie got devastating. Just, like, he spent all these years away from his family trying to defend the world. And it's just a guy with a bow and arrow. Just a guy with a bow and arrow. And he spends all these years trying to... And he finally gets to go back to see with his family. And he's not even there. He's not even there with them when they disappear.
The thing is, it's always just off screen. Like, you see, like, dust particles after. He doesn't see it happen. And so he hears nothing. It's
which
just,
means that
they're there 1 second, and then gone the next.
He probably spent hours running around.
Broke perimeter immediately.
Looking for his family, only to find out hours later.
Oh, assuredly hours later.
Everyone was dead.
And it's just, like, it hits really hard.
They were snapped by a villain he didn't even have a chance to face.
He didn't... Yeah, exactly. He wasn't even there in the battle against Thanos.
He had no idea. I doubt he even knew about the alien invasion. I doubt he knew anything.
Didn't know anything. He was... Remember, he was in house arrest. Total communications blackout. He was not allowed...
I doubt he had a communications blackout.
I very much doubt they allowed him to have any communication at all. He is a spy.
very much doubt
television?
Yeah.
Maybe television.
His family lives there.
Out.
He's got fucking children.
Maybe television, but I don't.
They weren't out. They were outside their home. They lived there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, the thing is, though, it's like when Ant-Man comes back and he's like, what the hell happened? And then while walking through the city, and then he starts like scrolling and like fucking desperately looking for, he's like, is Cassie alive? Is she okay? Is everything? And then he sees his name on it, and it's like freaking out. And I guess when he saw his name, there was that glimmer of hope he had. It's like, wait, my name's on here, but I'm alive. I don't see her name. So he's like, and then it's like he sees his daughter.
Also, if my name's on here, then someone had to report me.
Yeah. So his idea is like, and then he sees his daughter and they hug. It's like, now, I didn't see Ant-Man and the Wasp before watching Endgame.
I didn't need to.
But
I did.
But they really enforce in Ant-Man and the Wasp his relationship with Cassie. It really, really reinforces it. But they did a good enough job in the original Ant-Man movie that seeing the scene where they saw each other again, that sounds like
it's been 5 years.
You're so big. It's like those. It's like she thought her father was dead.
And they had a very, very close relationship with each other.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what would fucking suck? If she lost all 3 of her parents.
Right.
If all of them got dusted. By the way, that reminds me of another thing. In a tweet or whatever, after Infinity War came out, they confirmed that Aunt May survived the snap. And then you see Far From Home, and it turns out, no, she got snapped.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's like, I guess there's miscommunication along the way.
What? I thought you were fine.
Which, by the way, that would suck. Like, Aunt May finding out at the end of Homecoming that he's Spider-Man. And then Thanos, and then the snap, and then he's gone.
And then just waiting.
And now she's by herself, and she's home, alone, no family.
Honestly, she should have not been snapped.
Because
that would have been way...
Because basically everyone in Far From Home got snapped. So there was no one really... But I understand why they did that. They
needed a happy
focus.
Movie. They needed a happy movie.
Especially after Tony's death.
It's like
Endgame's
over.
Also, they wanted to focus on the conflict of the movie, not the conflict of the last movie.
Like, they did exactly what they should have done. They turned it into a joke.
Speaking of, with like Tony's death, that was...
Oh my god, that was...
I was crying.
I cried.
Like...
And this is Codig, who doesn't even really care much for Tony and Iron Man.
I love it.
But that death...
It hits. It hits really hard, and it hits even harder. Like, I think one of my favorite parts of that was when Cap looks around and sees everyone getting dusted, and he's like... And you see the look on his face of joy as he sees we've defeated the enemies. And then he looks at Tony and realizes how they won.
And he's like, you see Thor and Tony standing next to each other, and it's just the tears. Cap is straight crying.
Yeah, it's such a powerful scene when he does it too, because you have Thanos, this man who tries to portray himself as I am inevitable. Destiny will always arrive, and now it is here, and now I am here. I am inevitable, and I am Iron Man.
Which I'm sure a lot of you know, but at this point, is a pretty famous story that was not in the original script. They come up with that afterwards when Robert Downey Jr. was sitting down with, I think, the directors and maybe the writer, eating, and then they came up with that idea, and Robert Downey Jr. really had to think about it. Like, can I put that costume back? I already said goodbye to the character. Could I do it again?
Could I put the armor on?
It took convincing to get him to do it, which I'm so glad they did.
I'm so glad they did.
That's such a
powerful
Because originally he just snapped. He's like, I am inevitable, and then he just was like, no, there's things that, and I am
Iron Man.
And it's like I love the first person, the one who finds him and the one who goes to him first is Rhodey.
His best man.
His longest,
his best friend.
His oldest friend. The one who stood by him through all the years and all the grief and everything.
And another
And they don't even exchange words. They just puts his hand on his shoulder and they just look at they just look at each other, and that's all that needs to be said. It's like, I'm here for you in the end.
And another beautiful thing about that scene is you can see Tony fighting, struggling to stay alive, struggling to stay in the thing, because he's Tony. He's got to protect his family.
And then Pepper comes up.
Pepper says, it's all right. Yeah. We'll be okay.
You can rest now.
You can rest now.
Oh, puts tears in my face.
Then
so sad.
You see him give up. You say, okay. They're okay. I can rest.
Oh, so sad. So sad.
Moving on to a less sad moment. My favorite moment in the entire movie, in the entire franchise, in the entirety of the MCU.
When Cap goes straight Mortal Kombat.
Cap goes straight Mortal Kombat. I was in the theater screaming. You can ask Aaron and Ryan. They were there with me.
He was in a completely different part of the theater.
And they could hear me. I was screaming when Cap lifted Mjolnir. My God, it is one of the most amazing scenes in cinema history. It was a scene that we never thought we were going to see after Ragnarok and Mjolnir got destroyed. We're like, shit, we're never going to see that.
We're not going to see Thor. I'm never going to see Cap.
And then you see Thor grabs like, I'm so worthy, and shit, and then you're like, it's gotta happen.
Me and Aaron were like sitting next to going, it's gotta happen. It's gotta be it. It's
and
gotta happen.
It happens,
if it doesn't happen, we're both gonna be pissed.
And he's like, and then Thor's just like, I knew it.
It was awesome.
I just absolutely do. And then he proceeds to whoop Thanos' ass using Mjolnir better than Thor did in any of his movies. Combining it with the shield and the thunder.
There's a strange thing. Is like the only time you ever see Thor use Mjolnir quickly is when he's spinning the hammer. Like Cap was using Mjolnir fast. He was using it to pepper him with blows and leading into like a thunder strike, which that was supposed to be the heavy one. It was used the shield and Mjolnir to get him into a position to then hit him with something that really, really hurt.
Yeah, that's because Thor treats Mjolnir as an expression of his power. Cap treats it like a weapon.
Yeah.
This is a hammer. This is a warhammer. I will treat it like a warhammer.
I think that scene, the final battle scene, really emphasizes one of my favorite parts about the MCU as a whole, how it all comes back from Avengers 1 to Endgame. The scene between Cap and Tony, it's like, you're not the guy to,
make the sacrifice play.
And it's like, everything special about you came out of a bottle. And at the end, Tony sacrifices himself to save the world. And Cap proves his worth by lifting Mjolnir. And they prove each other wrong, and
it's so powerful. And I love the scene, that one beautiful scene when Thanos and all of his army is coming down out of the sky, and it's just Cap, battered and beaten. That shield's busted.
Such a Cap
and he
move.
He tightens it up.
He just tightens it up, and he's like, I will face this entire army alone. I will be the last thing standing between you
and that shot
and my home.
Of just him and the army on the horizon is not based on any comic book. There's no panel. That was completely
beautifully done.
And it is the most beautiful Captain America thing that has happened in the movies.
It's like, I think it's one of the reasons. I think it's one of the reasons they did that. It was like, beyond just being simply just pure Captain America, is because a lot of people, you're gonna ask Codig, was really, 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 really pissed that in Infinity War, that Cap just like he holds Thanos' fist back and then just get punched out, and that's their only real interaction.
Whereas Tony has a whole fight with Thanos, causes him to bleed, and really earns
especially
Thanos.
from the comics.
And Thanos earns like, I see you as an equal. I respect you.
Which
Cap himself never even really, he doesn't get that either.
It's so infuriating because like in the comics you have Cap who flat out Thanos with his gauntlet, full gauntlet. Cap stands up to Thanos. I am not afraid. I will face you down. Stands up, looking at him. Not eye to eye. Clearly, he's like 10 feet taller. But he's staring at him. I will not let you pass me.
Which we don't. Yeah, Cap doesn't say anything. But honestly, in that scene, there are no words needed to be said. Everything is said through visuals. It's like, I see you and your army. It's like, all my years of violence and bloodshed, it's never personal. But what I'm about to do to your stubborn little planet, I'm going to enjoy.
Very much. This will put a smile on my face.
This whole thing, and then he just sees the army, and then Cap just sees it, recognizes it, stands up,
tightens the shield,
and then marches.
And then you got Falcon.
Which honestly is like the fact that that he ripped his shield apart, which Thanos does in the comics. Like Cap's shield's been broken on a number of occasions, but usually by astronomically powerful beings, which Thanos is. But the fact that he was able to break his shield apart, but like that blade of Thanos's, like,
is garbage.
There's no introduction. There's no explanation. Like, I don't know when Disney bought Fox. But I would have loved it if there was that little bit. It was like, in the comics, vibranium is a space metal, and adamantium is a synthetically created metal on Earth. So what would have been interesting is if vibranium, it was like basically the opposite. Like vibranium was a naturally occurring metal on Earth, and adamantium was a super space metal. Is like, what is that blade made out of? Adamantium. It's like the little drop for like those comic book fans, like an explanation as to why he was able to just rip his shield apart. But
also, can we just, the sword nut here would like to state that sword is complete impractical garbage. It is a crime to all of sword history. It is fucking awful.
Yeah, it's more impressive to Thanos. He's able to murder entire civilizations with the most impractical weapon ever designed.
Yeah,
it is garbage.
And then you have Captain Marvel's whole scene in that, and it's just like, I think the final battle, I think we could make an entire podcast on just the final battle of Endgame.
The most ambitious fight scene
in cinematic history.
So good.
And it is really good, and I feel like we can drag on this forever.
So we're going to do really quick, because we are definitely pushing it. Like, I know we tend to try it for just an hour, but like I said earlier in the podcast, this is phase 3. This is the finale. This is the climax. This is the.
And we're not even done yet.
Yeah, we're not. So we're gonna be real quick on Far From Home. I liked the idea that, and this was a joke that was made way before. It was like, oh, in the trailers for Far From Home, he's Mysterio. Well, he's a hero this time. It's like, yes, the villain who is known for being an illusionist and lying. He's a hero. Sure. Wink, wink. And then you go into the movie, and you know what? You actually buy it, or at least you start to buy it. You're like, all right.
It was
so good, well played, con, because not for a second does he drop the act until he has what he wants, and even then, he doesn't like, yes, at last, Parker, you fool, No, he lets Peter walk away happy and content, because in that moment, he gives Peter exactly what he wants. It's like, and he makes it Peter's idea. He makes it him think about it. He's like, he gives me, he's like, all right, I'll be the hero, you go get the girl. It's okay. He's like, see, that wasn't so hard. And then they explain it to you, every step of the plan and everything that's gone wrong. I love that. It works so well. They did such a good job. And the idea is, like, once the end actually presented, like, oh, you see who he truly is? He is unhinged.
Yeah.
He's crazy as fuck.
Wackadoodle.
Oh, but I will admit, I am impressed with the fact that the only time that I really began to question the con from the infamous con man was in the last fight scene before we have the little talk, where Fury and Hill show up in the car, and then there are pop bullet holes in the windshield. That is when I was like, wait.
It's been minutes since I've seen the movie.
I don't remember.
Wait. That was it. That was the only time that I really began to question what I was looking at. That was brilliantly done. They managed to hold it on for that long.
I agree with Aaron on one part of the climax that kind of upset me was the spider sense scene. And I'll let Aaron go into more description about that because honestly, he is the Spidey fanboy, so and this is probably one of his favorite scenes in any Spider-Man anything. So I'll let him go into detail on this one.
I will admit that it's not as it's probably not like as great as we'd all probably like.
Easy,
but at the same time, it's really hard to show off the Spidey sense.
No, it's not.
No,
from a live action point of view.
No, it's not. 100% it's not.
Especially not the way that they could have done that better.
Especially since in the fucking TV show, they showed you how Daredevil sees the world and explained thoroughly his powers.
They don't even use the fucking spider sense in the movies.
That's not true.
They do, but it's like it's not like
in Civil War. There's a scene where he's in the rafters and he's fighting and he goes, "Oh God!" and he dodges an attack. And then there's Infinity War where he's heads down.
It's not as prevalent as it should be.
No, it's not as prevalent. But honestly, it's not. It's those things where it's like, you know, the spider sense. Like I will say this about the Tobey Maguire movies is they give you a great example. That first time it really happens is how Peter with spider sense sees the world. That scene in high school where it's like everything slows down and he can see everything. To how he can see a fly beat its wings in the air. You can see a spitball. You can see all that stuff, and then it goes in on Flash Thompson throwing a punch, and he moves. It's like, you see that. And then...
You don't need, like, the tinglies above his head. You don't need that.
It's like,
but they can at least give us a little bit more...
See, the reason why it's so upsetting, like, really, really upsetting, is because I knew that scene was coming. It's gotta be. Because that's how Peter defeats Mysterio for the first time. He's an illusionist. You can fool my eyes, you can fool my ears. You can't mess with the spider sense. And it's when Peter... It's basically the whole thing. It's like anyone who's seen Into the Spider-Verse, it's a leap of faith. Peter had to trust himself and his abilities to do it.
You're Peter Tingle.
But things. What really pisses me off is they did the whole things. The Spider-Man lifting the building off of him from the comics. That's another really great scene from the comics where basically Aunt May is sick and Dr. Octavius has the cure. So Peter is fighting him to try to get the cure, but the roof caves in and water's pouring in. And basically Peter says, there's as much weight as a train on me. And he has to show how strong he is because he has to lift it off himself to save his aunt. And then they flip it in the movies that he has to do it to save himself, to show Peter how strong he really is. So when he's lifting it, he's saying, "Come on, Spider-Man. Come on, Spider-Man." It's like, I am Spider-Man. I am the power. It's not the suit, it's me. And then, the things, I like it, because even Spider-Man 2, they have the whole emotional turmoil is his emotional problems are affecting his powers, his spider sense, his strength, speed. In Far From Home, they give you a brief example, like Aunt May throws a banana at him. He's like, "What?" It's like, "What happened to your Peter Tingle?" "My what?" It's like, okay, so his spider sense isn't working, but nowhere else in the movie do we really see a situation where Peter is in danger and his spider sense... We don't see him get hit by debris, we don't see him walk into doors, we don't see anything. It's pretty much the beginning of the movie, and at the end of the movie, it's like, alright, especially whenever because he fights all those turrets, and he uses his intelligence to defeat all those turrets. And then he goes into the scene and he's like, especially, and I like it because they set it up perfectly because he has an entire scene with like where he's messing with him. And he's like, all right, he's like, maybe if you were better, Tony would still be alive. And it's just like this nightmare sequence of Peter being bombarded with imagery, and he almost dies as a result of it. Which, by the way, no way he dodged that train without his spider sense.
Yeah.
And then there's a scene where it goes completely dark. It's like completely pitch black. And he starts going, and he starts moving, and he starts dodging everything, this whole thing. That scene is done best when there is a mix of illusion and danger. The audience has to see things through Spider-Man's eyes. If we see things we see things through the spider sense. What is real and what is danger? We don't. It's just a black screen, and then he starts shooting, and there's gunfire, and there's flashing lights and everything, and you can't really see what's actually fucking going on.
I mean, I could.
No, you couldn't.
Yes, you could.
It's a bunch of spinning and twisting and flipping. Ooh!
There was a bunch of spinning
in a tight hallway that basically you could have thrown your fist and hit something.
The best they have is whenever he's on the ground, he's like, you got me. Alright, that was it. And then, like, he's standing there, he's watching him, and then he grabs the gun. He's like, you can't fool me anymore. That was done well. I like that part, because like, that was showing the, like, alright, that's the illusion, but I see the real danger. And the fact that it came as a surprise to the audience, I was like, oh shit. Like, I didn't know that was... I thought it was over. But Peter learned his lesson. He didn't drop his guard for a second.
And I do actually... I'm kind of interested to see how they play this out through the rest of the movies about his identity being revealed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very interested to see how this plays out. But unfortunately, you don't get as much impact from that in the movies as you would in the comics or the other things, because his rogues gallery just isn't anywhere near as big as it is in the comics.
Well, they gave him more chances. Like, you know... Oh, that could be interesting. The next villain, potentially, I think would be interesting if it was...
Dr. Octopus.
Scorpion.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be Dr. Octopus.
Probably, but I think it'd be interesting because
like they already cast Dr. Octopus.
J. Jonah Jameson funded the research to create Scorpion specifically to take out Spider-Man. Because according to the scientists who created him, in nature there are scorpions who hunt spiders.
And also, at the time, the city government views Peter Parker as a criminal, as a threat. So they're trying to take him out.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But we'll get there when we get there, and whenever those movies get released. And, we'll cover up the shows whenever they're fully released. But until then...
Really, Phase 3 is interesting, because it's kind of the whole thing of a lot of the movies are just okay. And then you have Endgame and Infinity War, which are amazing. It's like Civil War has problems. Guardians 2
has problems.
Not many problems. But it's mostly just
kind of meh.
Not Ant-Man and the Wasp. Doctor Strange, okay, but not the best.
Good.
Thor Ragnarok, I liked it. Could have been way better. And then Ant-Man and the Wasp, fun movie, plot hole, whatever. Captain Marvel, perfectly fine. Far From Home, I really, really, really actually liked. I think it was a great way to end off Phase 4.
Phase 3.
Phase 3.
Yes. Sorry, to end off Phase 3, start Phase 4. And then Infinity War and Endgame, there are no words that have not already been said by literally
War and Endgame.
Everyone.
That's all you need.
If there's anyone in the world who does not like Infinity War and Endgame, it's because they have seen no other MCU movies.
Yep. But that's going to do us for today. We've been talking for quite a while.
For the longest podcast we are probably ever going to have.
That's going to do us for today. Just let us know whatever you want us to cover next, and we will take a look at it and, maybe get back with y'all on that one. Until then, I have been Codig.
I have been Aaron.
And I have been Ryan.
Bye.
Have fun editing this one.
Yeah, fuck!